It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Yeah! No fear. Your independence of me, Ernest Hancock, from the Sonoran Desert, west of Phoenix. And we are having our good friend Arron Day on. He's a old guard from Bitcoin back in the day, and he's in the free state of New Hampshire, and he had a mission. He has a mission. And it upset the apple cart of they, them, those, and they don't like it. So we're going to hear all about, get updated on what's up. Now, Arron, tell us what your goal was, how you were going to do it, and what did they, them, those do?
Yeah, so thank you for having me back on. I'll try to explain this as simply as I can. I've been involved in political activism for a long time, and which I exited, but nevertheless, the political activism I was doing here in New Hampshire around 2012 to 2018, I bought into this whole, hey, we can achieve, liberty in our lifetime through the Republican Party. And I was all on board with that, and obviously was on board with Ron Paul. And what I realized here at the state level in New Hampshire, I realized something that people to this day still don't want to accept, which is that politics in this country actually works from the top down. It doesn't work from the bottom up. And I realized this in New Hampshire when we had a situation where Republicans were united against Obamacare, if you go back to 2012. And in fact, after 2012 and the election and the Republicans lost, there was a group of faction leaders within the Republican Party that got together. I was one of them. Our U.S. Congressman, Frank Ginta was there, President of the Senate, so on and so forth. And what we decided was we needed to get unity. And the one area that we were unified on was opposition to Obamacare in all of its forms. And in fact, this was the number one issue on the Republican platform, was opposition to Obamacare. So this was how we kicked off the election loss in 2012, was this unity around this message. Well, not 30 days later, the Senate, the Republican majority leader and the Senate president pushed Obamacare Medicaid expansion. They actually drafted the bill. And so I opposed this, and I went around the state getting town and county meetings to sign, in almost all cases, unanimous resolutions against what these Republicans in the Senate were doing, and traveled all around the state. And it was brought in Rand Paul, brought in Freedom Works, brought in all these people, and we lost anyway. The Republicans pushed through Obamacare Medicaid expansion. But they said, hey, it's going to be short. So, if the government doesn't...
What do you mean it's going to be short? It's going to be short? What does that mean?
Oh, they said that, we worked in this waiver where the federal government was going to basically pay for all of the additional costs, and it wasn't going to cost the New Hampshire taxpayers anything. This was the big pitch. And then there was an out, which is that if the federal government didn't honor the waiver, then there's an automatic out clause. Well, sure enough, 2 years later, the thing comes up for reauthorization. And at this point, I primaried as many of the senators that voted for it as possible. We actually did pick up 2 seats. More on that later. But then when the reauthorization came up, in fact, not only did we take out some of those seats, but I formed a super PAC, and we won enough votes in the House to bring in this guy, Bill O'Brien, as Speaker of the House. And, he was adamant about repealing this Medicaid expansion. Well, so then what happens is our U.S. Senator gets involved, Kelly Ayotte at the time, and interferes with the Speaker's race. And the reason she interfered with the Speaker's race is she was told by John Sununu and others that unless New Hampshire reauthorized Medicaid expansion, she would lose her reelection for U.S. Senate. So now at this point, my view of the world is, well, all I care about is New Hampshire. I don't care about Washington, D.C., but why is this Washington, D.C. creature interfering with what we're doing at the state level? And so I basically devised a strategy where I said, listen, I can't beat you in a primary because these primaries are rigged. But what I'll do is I will recruit a slate of candidates to run for all federal offices in New Hampshire, U.S. Senate, both congressional seats, as independents, and I will cost you all of those seats if you reauthorize Medicaid expansion. And I met with people, and I gave them a year's notice and everything else. And the chair of the party said, oh, nobody thinks you can do this, or nobody believes you'll follow through with it, or whatever. So they reauthorized Medicaid expansion, and I followed through with it. And I wasn't even supposed to be the candidate. I was actually collecting signatures for somebody else. Well, it turns out we were successful. I got almost 18,000 votes. Kelly Ayotte lost by 1,100 votes. It was the most expensive Senate race per capita in the history of the United States. $99 per vote, $131 million. And it's well documented that I was the cause because there was also a libertarian on the ballot. So everybody voting for me was voting for the protest of Kelly Ayotte. Well, it turns out our two other congressional seats, we were also the margin of difference for as well. I ran some tried and true libertarians, but as independents. Well, the net effect of this is the Republicans ended up losing the Senate from 2020 to 2022 because of this, because Ayotte was out. And Republicans, for the first time since 1854, had no Republican representation in the United States Congress. Now, here's my takeaway from this. So you might think, oh, well, this is great, right? You were able to show that you can use this third party thing to get accountability. Why'd you exit politics? And the reason I exit politics is that even though a lot of the people that are in politics in New Hampshire at the state level voted for me, they ended up caving and continued to reauthorize Medicaid expansion and then supported Kelly Ayotte for governor. And that's where I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. Like, it's like when you go and do this thing and you show that you can gum up the works with the federal government to try to, save the state. And then the people at the state level decide, we just want power anyway. So we're going to go in that other direction. Then I kind of threw my hands up. Not to mention I got sued, 5.5 years of litigation, the whole 9 yards, because you know what? People hate this. I've had a billionaire hedge fund guy threaten me with violence over this. I had 2 lawsuits over this. No one, look, this is the little secret, right? The Libertarian Party is not going to gain power, but if you were strategic, given that we're a 50-50 country, and you started interfering with these races that are razor thin, you could do this for like $5,000. You can upset
I'm with you, brother. We've been doing this for decades here in Arizona. They don't like it. And they don't like you because of it.
They hate me. They absolutely hate me. So I'm out of politics, and I'm like, look, the problem that we have right now with the Trump administration is that we have technocracy with zero friction. There's nobody slowing anything down. I mean, We've got Real ID. We've got, the backdoor CBDCs to the Genius Act. We have, hopefully we won't have the Clarity Act, but, in all likelihood we'll have the Clarity Act. We have Palantir. This is faster acceleration of Agenda 2030 under Trump than it was under Biden. And so, that's problem number one. So obviously I exited politics, and I've spent all my time and all of the episodes that I've been on here with you has been focusing on parallel solutions. But what I've realized is parallel solutions are not going as quickly as the technocracy is. So we do need to slow them down to buy ourselves some more time. Not that we're going to fix government, but I mean, man, if this goes unchecked and unstopped, particularly now with AI, man, we're going to have a really hard time getting out of this technocracy. And so as I've been working on the stuff I've been working on, first focused on CBDCs and everything else, the other thing I noticed is that all of the people that are really good at building parallel systems have been targeted by the federal government, specifically all of the crypto pioneers, people like Ian Freeman and Roger Ver and all of the privacy guys, Samurai Wallet, Roman Storm. And by the way, the list keeps on growing. It's not subsiding. And so I'm like, well, you know what? It just so happens.
I thought that war on crypto was over, man. It's not over?
Yeah. I no, the war on crypto it's not. In fact, it's the inversion. The war on it's only over in the propaganda sense, but it's actually worse. And more people are, Ray Youssef is the latest. I mean, we're now in the zone of, this isn't just people that were arrested by Biden and Trump just hasn't gotten around to looking at the cases. These are new active cases that Trump is pushing under his DOJ. And so I looked at this whole thing and I said, let me look at what's going on the scoreboard here. The Republicans are going to lose the House. And you look at the prediction markets, and lo and behold, it's 50-50 toss-up as to which party's going to control the United States Senate. Well, then I look at, what's going on here in New Hampshire? Well, it turns out New Hampshire is now one of the battleground states. And in fact, it's a 1 point to 3 point race. The Democrat is only 1 to 3 points ahead of the Republican, except that the Republican they're putting up this year is an absolute, political dynasty family technocrat lobbyist. The worst. He is the absolute representation of what we mean when we say here's a politician that's pushing the technocratic agenda. This guy's name is John E. Sununu. His father, John H. Sununu, was the chief of staff for George H.W. Bush, was the governor of New Hampshire. His brother was recently the governor. He was a U.S. senator himself way back in the day before, around the 9/11 up till, the financial crisis in 2008. And this is what this guy's track record is. He voted for TARP, the multi-$100 billion bailout of Wall Street. Then he became the chair of the TARP Oversight Committee. Nice job, by the way. And then, based on that experience, after he lost his reelection, he became the chair of a World Economic Forum finance board because of what he did with TARP. Also, while he was elected, he voted for Real ID. And then he also voted for the reauthorization of the Patriot Act. But this is what makes him particularly dangerous, because he's the kind of guy where he came in and what he'll say is, well, I negotiated, the protection of our civil liberties in the Patriot Act and then voted for it. So he acts like he's a civil libertarian. But the truth is, had he not put in his meaningless safeguards, by the way, because we didn't get any protection in the Patriot Act. If he hadn't put those in and acted like this statesman, it's possible that the Patriot Act wouldn't have been reauthorized at all. So he's a more dangerous type of person. So anyway, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, this Sununu dynasty is actually destroying New Hampshire in a variety of ways. This has been one of the things I've been trying to say to people here in New Hampshire since 2012. This guy's a technocrat. The race is 50-50, but it gets better. The largest donor to this guy is the Senate Majority PAC, or whatever it is that it's called. The largest donor is Miriam Adelson. Miriam Adelson, the AIPAC affiliated person who was responsible for taking out Thomas Massie, is the largest donor to the PAC that just earmarked $17 million to support Sununu. So I'm looking at this as, you know what? This is a lot of leverage. This is control of the United States Senate. So while I don't believe we can vote our way out of it, I do believe we could use a third party to either hold the other two accountable or to try to get some demands on the table, kind of like what happened in 2024 with Angela McArdle and the Libertarian Party getting the pardon of Ross Ulbricht. That's an actual political accomplishment. You can say whatever you want else about the Trump administration, but Ross is free. And, that is a function of the leverage that the Libertarian Party had, because Trump was going to go to prison. If Trump did not win re-election, he would be in prison right now. So he needed to say whatever he needed to say, do whatever he needed to do to absolutely make sure he got those votes. So my idea this time is, look, I'll run for this again. This is a playbook. Everybody knows it works, and everybody hates me for it. But the problem is, if I throw my name up there and I'm on that ballot, he's going to lose. And it doesn't matter if Miriam Adelson could throw in $170 million, and they're still going to lose. Because it's not like you can attack me. And now because of the association with Massey, now that it looks like what it is, another foreign country trying to buy the Senate seat, there's a baseline level of support for this this is the referendum on what happened to Thomas Massey. Now, so I've launched this campaign. I've been talking about it for a while. Now they're trying to keep me off the ballot. Now, I will tell you, and this is a fascinating story because I have a lot of track record with this. So it turns out different states have different rules for, ballot access and so forth. But it turns out that, there are I'm running for a federal position, and the Constitution defines what the criteria are for being a U.S. Senator. You have to be 30 years old, you have to have lived in the country for 9 years, and you have to live in the state at the time of the election. And in fact, this is even on the Secretary of State's website. They list all of the qualifications for all of the other positions. State senator, you have to be registered to vote, where you're domiciled. State rep, same criteria. Governor, same thing. But for U.S. Senator, this is a constitutional requirement. And so I didn't register until the day before the end of the filing period. I was registered in a different town, and I've moved. And frankly, I hadn't updated my registration, one, because I didn't need to, and two, I didn't want anybody knowing where I lived. I had people at my old house. I had, in addition to lawsuits, I had somebody from the AG's office trespass, break into my house, hand my 4-year-old son a subpoena. I've had people filming me. I've had these lawsuits and death threats, or not death threats, but threats of violence. So I actually didn't want people to know. No one's known where I've lived for the last 7 years. In fact, a lot of people didn't even think I lived in the state for a long time, until the last couple of years anyway. So, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this. Part of this is we're hoping for pardons, in particular for our crypto prisoners. I have a list of 4 demands, but the biggest amongst them are these crypto prisoners that I've been advocating for the last few years. And, I thought we were close, and we may very well still be close. And so, if some of the demands were met, the leverage here is that if I'm on the ballot, you lose. If I'm not on the ballot, then you have a shot. And so why don't you follow your campaign promises? Trump said he would end the war on crypto. He hasn't ended the war on crypto. The things that I've laid out are not egregious demands or like things that I just want for myself. These are things that he promised that he hasn't delivered on. This is about accountability. So I was waiting until the last minute. Anyway, I did file my registration, and then I filed my what's called declaration of intent. So I'm running as an independent. So just because I sign up doesn't mean I'm on the ballot. I still have to collect 3,000 signatures, validated signatures, 1,500 in each of the congressional districts before I can be on the ballot. So it's you sign the declaration of intent by June the 12th. Then I have until August the 5th to get certified petitions in the hands of the Secretary of State's office. And then I have until September the 2nd to then, with all of that, officially sign up and then get on, printed on the ballot. Well, the Secretary of State rejected my declaration of intent of candidacy, stating that I wasn't a registered voter. And so, so I looked this up, and, there was a case in 2022, another libertarian named Ben Weir moved to the state, ran for sheriff, same situation, wasn't registered to vote at all, exact same situation. He registered to vote the day before the filing period. And by the way, their argument is that the supervisors of the checklist have to meet to put you on the list. Well, this precedent in 2022, this case in 2022, what the Ballot Law Commission determined is no, actual registration is when you sign your registration, not when this administrative panel happens to meet to decide to put you on a checklist, because there are a lot of towns and cities in New Hampshire, and they have their own timetables. So that would be a completely unfair definition and way of measuring registration. not the least of which in this whole situation is I'm running for U.S. Senate. None of this matters anyway, because this is a constitutionally defined.
Yeah, it's a federal thing, right?
It's a federal thing. So anyway, I immediately filed an appeal to the Ballot Law Commission. I presented to the Ballot Law Commission on Monday, and they rejected it 4-1. But what's interesting about it is the one guy who voted for it for me is the chair of the Ballot Law Commission. He's been the chair for decades. This is the first time I've found that he's ever been in dissent and ever not been in the majority. So whatever happened, I went and I presented, I gave them my documentation, and I will tell you, my wife and other people were there. Before they went into executive session, it was almost a lock that I won. And then they went in the back room and then literally came back and I lost. And the chair was clearly against the decision. So I don't know what all happened, but I will add one other thing. Before going in front of this Ballot Law Commission, I found that one of the members of the Ballot Law Commission had contributed money to a Republican congressional PAC, which is against the rules of the Ballot Law Commission. So I put in a motion for his recusal. He was not recused. And he was also appointed by Chris Sununu, who's the brother of the guy I'm running against. So what you're going to see, because by the way, I'm not done. As we say this, I'm not by any means done with this process. I believe I will be on the ballot in November, but it's going to be a lot of additional work. I equally filed a lawsuit in federal court. In fact, I filed the lawsuit in federal court within 48 hours of being denied by the Secretary of State. Now, I've done all this with AI, which is a whole other conversation that we can get into. But if the system that I've built works, this is a tool all of us can use. If you're trying to fight a data center, one of the big things that they have against us everywhere is that nobody can afford a lawyer. But if we could actually get these systems working so that people could file pro se, so all you have to pay is legal fees, but you could actually represent yourself, this is another way we can clog them up. And so this is a test. I don't know. We'll see how well this works, but I've put a lot of time. I've been working like nonstop on refining, because obviously AI hallucinates. So this is a situation where it's like I'm getting all of the case law, so on and so forth. So anyway, I filed a federal lawsuit. I've also filed for a restraining order and an emergency preliminary injunction. So I have which I got a good judge pick. I have an Obama era judge pick who's very favorable to these types of election law cases, and I've already submitted my paperwork. So I have a hearing on Tuesday to schedule this case, but it's fast tracked, and I think I've got a really good shot at winning this on the constitutional grounds, because so far historically the states are 0-4 on fighting these kinds of things in the federal court. Okay,
I got a couple of questions. One,
yep.
I'm very familiar with Arizona election law, but, or was until they keep changing it. I got a bunch of Ernie laws. But the New Hampshire is different. But when you get into federal cases for federal elections, that is determined a lot by the U.S. Constitution, requirements, and you got to comply and whatever. But is there another option for getting on the ballot as an independent? Do it later, bypass? Do you have like a direct primary requirement? How does this work? And
no,
go ahead.
This is I am running as an independent. This is the method. And by the way, this is another part of the argument. Even the chair of the Ballot Law Commission said, I've never seen this confluence of circumstances, because I am running as an independent. And what the Secretary of State tried to use as a means for rejection is a law that was written. So they have a law that says you have to change your party affiliation status by June the 2nd, which is the day before the filing period, because of the primary. So the law is about, you have to make all of your changes to the registration only if you're in the primary. But I'm not in a primary, and I'm not one of the two parties. And so they're even wrong on their own statute. But the truth is, this is the only way that I can get printed on the ballot as an independent. But admittedly, they've never had a case like this. The Ballot Law Commission's never had a case like this. The Secretary of State's never had a case like this. And so, which is why the Ballot Law Commission should have voted in my favor and actually ruled that it was a one-off, unique set of circumstances, and in fact probably should have instructed the Secretary of State to change the information on their website, which says that the only qualifications are the federal qualifications. They added no other qualifications, but this is my path.
Okay, let me. I want to understand the claim. You gave a bunch of dates, and you did this, and you filed that, and what is it they're claiming? They're latching on to something. What is it?
They're claiming I have to be a registered voter where I'm domiciled when I file the declaration of candidacy. And then they're furthermore defining that being registered means that not just that because I have a voter ID. I've got so my status in my city, Nashua City thing is pending. I've been continuously registered in New Hampshire for over a decade. What I had was an in-state transfer of my voter ID from one location to another, which is irrelevant for a federal race. I'm not running for a state race. So we have 424 people in the state legislature. And so a lot of people play games with moving districts at the last minute, or they file and, in a district where they don't actually live. And these are games that get played. There's nothing to do with the U.S. Senate candidate. So not only have they violated, they've added requirements that the Constitution does not allow, they've also made this definition of what it means to be registered that is irrelevant in this context. And that this 2022 case that was in front of the Ballot Law Commission, the opinion was you are registered when you actually go to the town clerk and register, not when a group of bureaucrats needs to put you on a checklist. This was the actual determination in that hearing. And so they're claiming that I'm not registered because I'm not on a checklist.
Okay, and that checklist is not you actually updating your voter registration. It's some board saying they updated it.
Yes, it's the board saying they updated it. So I did everything that is allowable to me by law to register to vote, and I did all of that before the closing of the window for declaring my candidacy.
Because they can.
Because they can, but I'm going to tell you this: we're going to make this a federal race now, because what you're going to see is this Sununu family putting their finger on the scale, and so I'm making this about this race is the referendum on what's going on within the Republican Party nationally. This race is a referendum on what happened in Massey. It's a referendum on Adelson. This is going to become a national story now. So of course I'm getting more press because of this. And I'm going to fight this every step. Yeah, is it hard? Yeah. Does it make it more difficult for me to get on the ballot? Yes. Does it harm my ability to collect signatures? I'm still collecting signatures, but now I've got to battle this and do that. Yeah, it does make it harder, but I'm gonna turn this against them. I've learned enough of dealing with these guys that you take their own corrupt stuff and you magnify it and you shove it right back their way.
And Arron's got AI skills, man. He does videos and memes, and I mean, I tell you honestly, I would have been shocked if you had an easy way to the ballot because of all the things that you're doing. If they can, they are going to stop. I've been through this. I've been to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on election laws. I've had, 3 cases in Arizona Supreme Court. I do exactly the same crap, and just hammer on them. Then they get the judge to put a stay on it because we're going to change it in the legislature. And then they, do kind of a cosmetic change, but then they change the law. So that one doesn't apply. It's moot. And you got blah, blah, blah. I've been through this. And you use their weight against them exactly like you're doing. You bring attention to all this, but subdermal, below the surface, they already got a plan. They're already doing what they're going to do. What they're going to do. It has gotten to the point to where I went all Arron Day on them and said, I'm done with politics. We're over here. We're creating parallel. We're doing, but I understood the dynamic that you were bringing into this, that they were going to lose the U.S. Senate and the Republicans, and they're like, oh hell no, we got shit tons of Zionist money. We're gonna do what we got to do because we're gonna do it. And New Hampshire, being such a small state, and it's the first primary in the presidential election. It's the gets a lot of attention from the media, and it's nothing. I mean, it's inconsequential to the over, except when you got a 50-50 split kind of thing. So you going after that in the free state, live free or die state, which is actually on their license plates, which they keep trying to take out. Is it still there? Have they been successful taking that out?
I think it's still there. It's a good question. I don't look at license plates, but I think it's still there. But you know what? I don't care if it's there. We have real ID, and we've got flock cameras. So I guess if it's there, they can pick it up on the flock cameras. Maybe some of the people that are going through the footage can maybe look into what the statement means.
This has been I did see. Porcupine Freedom Festival is in the summer, and this year they did kind of a decentralized, noted, go visit a bunch of Free Stater people and whatever. And Jay Noon, our good friend, in Weir, New Hampshire, had an event, and I just got pictures from some of the guys yesterday. And I go, oh, man, I missed out. They did a lot of cool stuff. Well, it's the decentralization. This is what happened. When Russell Brand started doing his show, I'm going, yeah, this is going to take off more than I think people realize. Not because now he decentralized into his, socialist commune or whatever the hell he wants to do. Wasn't the point. The point is that he was emphasizing decentralization from power at the top. What you're doing is you're demonstrating the power at the top. And it's not even the top of you. It's top interest of somewhere else, somebody else, other countries, other interests, corporations. It's not like the government regulates or controls the corporations. These large multinational corporations have a bunch of governments, on their speed dial to do what they want. And you're highlighting this stuff and being creative in getting on the ballot, being in there. You're going to cause them consternation, and they have to stop it at whatever cost. Now, if they can do it through the legal system in courts, they'll choose that first, and even if they got to make up crap, but they're going to come after you, man. And you're highlighting this. I don't know who's going to judge it. Is it going to speed up to the Supreme Court of the U.S. of America, or where's the end of this legal battle?
Well, so the thing is, the only thing that matters is the timing, because September the 2nd is the date by which I have to have this finalized in order to be printed ballot. So I could win the case and then not have my name on the ballot. But the good news is that the judge and magistrate that I have, based on their track record, are favorable to my kinds of cases, and they've already fast-tracked it. I mean, man, I was in there. I lost at the Ballot Law Commission on Monday. I had my 57-page lawsuit, emergency restraining order, all of the paperwork the next day. And I literally got a response and a motion on all of it the next day with an expedited hearing, forcing the AG's office to show up to structure this on next Tuesday. So that, believe it or not, I got a judge that is favorably inclined towards the Constitution with respect to elections. And this is one of the fun things about being in the Free State Project. When I look up the precedents, they're people that I know, the people that have. So I'm calling up a guy today that he won his preliminary injunction in front of the same magistrate. It's a guy I know. He was just at Fork Fest. So I'm going to call him up and get kind of his take on it. So we have a real shot because of the harm done, because we're going to collect the signatures anyway. And so I think that we've got a case to be made and there's no discovery in the case, right? It's kind of like, here's the Constitution, here are the laws. There's nothing to there are no witnesses to bring in. This is here are the facts. Let's make a decision. And then if I win the preliminary injunction, then they put a restraining order on it, reverse the Secretary of State. If that's happened by September the 2nd, which I've outlined in the timetable, then I'm on the ballot, provided I get the signatures. So that's the clear.
How many
that's
signatures
the clear,
do you need?
I need 3,000, but I need 1,500 validated in each of the 2 congressional districts. And so I already have 1,863 not validated. I haven't sent them in yet to the towns to get certified. And we've got more people coming in. I think Dan O'Neill might be coming in this weekend. We got more volunteers coming in. So we're working that angle. And again, but you know what? Look, Trump is supposed to be. They said that there's rumors that Trump is going to pardon 250 people on July the 4th, and I'm pretty sure our people are in that list if it happens. And if that happens, then as far as I'm concerned, maybe I don't go through with this, because there's accountability 2 ways. The accountability is you either use the threat of the race to get them to do what they said they were going to do, and then if they don't, then you follow through with it, and then they lose power, and then they get the lesson that way. So there's a 2-pronged approach. So we may have a conversation next week where these guys are pardoned and and some of the other stuff happens and I'm not in the race anymore. That would be ideal, frankly, for everybody involved, but I'm not going to bank on that.
Well, it may tip the scale in our guy's favor just a little bit. Okay, we deal with this freaking Arron thing, man. We just got to, let him out. What the hell, man? But there are other interests involved. There's so many interests. And I tell you, we're going into the 250th anniversary, 4th of July, freedom reigns, and what are we celebrating? After 250 years, we're just, I don't know, it's just an empire. We're Team Jersey us kind of thing. It's not real. It's all of the principles that the promise of protection of individual rights. If it doesn't do that, it's time to alter, abolish. It's your right, your duty thing. Well, I don't see where this goes. Just in the last few days, like yesterday, I had Patrick Wood on technocracy.news, and I've known him for over 20 years. And we've done, presentation stuff together and such, and warning, the smart cities and their budgeting and how they're, all this stuff, informing the people. And I think the people know. And if they don't know, the people that don't know, don't care, really don't matter, other than they just support the beast that's devouring them. And that's where the problem is. But efforts like yours are the ones that bring it out that we are not in charge. Can the people govern themselves? I think they can, and they should, But it's not that way. And you have to know that before you go to the next step. Now, of course, people are talking about violence and, the riots will start and the economy's going to go and the dollar's done and, the debts, so many reasons. But it's just a great reset to them. It's not going to change, their island ownership or how big their yachts are. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, and they just see the American people as a cash cow. We are livestock. And why do you go after America and Americans? Because that's where the money is. All the pensions, all of the, retirement, IRAs, 401ks. Then they changed laws to get you forced into, all of a sudden you're buying treasuries or IPOs of, Elon Musk or something. And I didn't authorize it. It doesn't matter, man. There's a pile of money there and it went from here over there. And we're supporting treasuries with stable coins. Yeah, that's the ticket. And we just saw at a story, I think it's on front page of Phoenix Now, yesterday, where Trump made, here it is. Trump reports over $1.4 billion in income from crypto earnings. And is he anti-crypto? He's you're having crypto, I can tell you that. So it's just it's so bad. And I don't know what the solution is other than highlighting it. But then what? If they lose, the Republicans lose control of the Senate, what that means is he's going to get impeached in the House. Then the Senate's going to have a trial, guilty. And then what? J.D. Vance, Palantir? I mean, what's the alternative? I don't see America coming out of this at all. I mean, I see the empire. What's holding it together? The petrodollar? Is that it? Is that all we got to go? Now, one thing we learned during COVID, and certainly around the world, a lot of people, they look at the United States of America as one thing, and they want to centralize everything. All the states are under, the president, and then the presidents are under the world government, or under the banking of, they, them, those rule everything. But what they learned in COVID is each state is its own state. It's like the state of Israel, the state of Georgia. I mean, it's like, you have a state. Well, they were making their own decisions, and they're, oh, no. And that's one thing about New Hampshire. They're always going after, well, do you have helmet laws? Do you have seatbelt laws? Do you have this law? Do you have that law? If you don't, well, we're going to keep this money from you and you're not allowed, like the Obamacare thing. So it's like, okay, we want that money. Why? How does it help the people? What do you say you're doing here? Well, the thing is that the people's individual rights have to be stripped away. Their money is taken from them. Their options are limited. So what are we celebrating, Arron? Arron, did I lose you?
I'm here. I'm getting back into my my place.
Yeah, Arron is dropping off his daughter. He's on the phone traveling and doing, and I'm glad to have him. But, it's a busy man. So this celebration for 4th of July, 250th, is it, I don't know, UFC fights on the White House lawn? I mean, is it, a Trump arch? I mean, is it a clean reflecting pool? I mean, what are we celebrating? Arron. Yeah, it looks like it dropped. He'll call back in. This is Arron's effort was clean. It was simple to understand, and it was effective. And they are there is nothing that will stop they, them, those from doing whatever the heck it is that they're doing if it threatens their plan. And there's always some little plan threatener. Well, Arron Day was one of those threats, and it has to be contended with. You back?
If you can give me like 3 minutes, I will be on my actual computer.
All right, you go ahead and go get all set up and come back in, and I'll ramble for a little bit. Now, what we're looking at is a dismantling of the American experiment. Now, this experiment's been going on for, 250 years. And what are we celebrating? The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, we got Bill of Rights Day, and we got, I guess, Constitution Day and all that. But the Declaration of Independence was a decade before the Constitution. After, the independence from the British Empire, we had the Articles of Confederation, which was like kind of a European Unionish kind of, well, what even that organized? There was no, there was no Congress, there was no Capitol building, there was no Washington, D.C. and all this kind of stuff. They have to create a collective. There's always a collective. Now, you can have, a confederation, that's what why they always called it, what did they call it? They called it federalism. Federalism, well, it's not, a central plan, but it's kind of a central hub. It's kind of like a United Nations. Yeah, that's the ticket. That's what we'll do. You be kind of independent, but we're going to have all these incentives. Well, that's another thing. United Nations is coming out with, we got to have a funding mechanism. We need a global tax on something. Give us something. What are we? Something. The promotion of, gay rights or something. Oh, the climate. Yeah, that's the ticket. We'll do that. Or what was the idea behind the League of Nations and, the United Nations and all that. What was the promise? What was the promise? Peace. That was the promise. We're going to be at peace. And how's that working out? Out of 250 years, I think there's like 20 years that we weren't in some actual bombing somebody war. So I need to know. Aaron, you back?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I got to bring you down. Now you're loud, man. Bring your mic down just a little bit.
All right.
Well, here, I can do it here.
How's this? Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit up, like 20% up.
How about, are we good now?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we'll work with that. So, 4th of July celebrations have been so superficial, and you can't go on YouTube without seeing baby Trump, hawking some $2.50 coffee mug or something and AI commercials. And I'm wondering what it is that they're trying to convince the American people in the world, this is a world thing, that we're celebrating. United States of America, 250 years of kicking ass, and we're celebrating what?
Well, I don't know what we're actually celebrating, but I think it's they're using all the same taglines, right? I mean, they're still saying we're the freest country in the world, and I mean, it's the same rhetoric. It's just that the reality is the inversion of the propaganda. I mean, what they're actually doing and what Trump is doing. And if you had Patrick on, yesterday, I do these roundtables with him from time to time. And, probably the biggest example of technocracy is what the Trump family and Kushner's and Palantir and Oracle are trying to do with the technocratic reconstruction of Gaza. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, we're the freest country in the world, put on our jersey and, support and subsidize these data centers so that we can go and personally profit off of spreading technocracy around the world, starting with Gaza. And by the way, if they can turn an open-air prison into a digital prison, if they can do that in Gaza, they can do it anywhere, which is their intention.
Well, we got off a little bit into a lot of people don't know how much of the elite support there was for China. And China was a test bed for a lot of this stuff. There's social credit score. It went back, and they bringing them in. And the reason I had Patrick on, he wrote an article about the whole intent of the Iran war thing was reinstitution into the global, market to bring them in, be part of. You got to, but they're whatever they're motivated by, religion, fanaticism. They want to be in charge, Persian heritage, whatever it is, they're not wanting to play, and they're willing to wait it out. You go, all we have to do is not give up. All we have to do is not surrender. All we have to do is, placement of drones. And, oh, by the way, we got hypersonics, and, I just had a store, they go, man, we already got nukes. You buy them, half a dozen at a time, you get a discount. I mean, whatever it is, you have to make them. Hell, Pakistan makes nukes. So this is, I don't see the truth. The truth is that they're lying about everything. And it is to what end? Well, of course, it's control and centralization for they, them, those. And Trump family, man, they are neon flashing examples of this. And Kushner's not an elected official. Hell, he's not even salaried or paid. He's a developer. They got all these developers going around getting contracts for Bechtel or something. We're going to have to rebuild Iran as part of the, restitution for yada, yada, yada. I mean, oh, my God. And who's getting hung out to dry on this? The American people and their future and their savings and their resources. So this is why silver takes a dump, gold takes a dump, and I'm going, good. I get to get more. I mean, this is not going to go well. And then they start putting restrictions on and taxes on, and it happened when they did gold confiscation in 33. What they did, you'd have a treasury agent or somebody, you went to your safe deposit box, we're going with you. Oh, I'm sorry, that's ours now. At, what was it, $25, and then it jumps up to $35 later, and they're going to do that with gold now. They have gold priced at $42 and something. Well, they can make it $4,000, $40,000, and now they're talking about, they're bringing back the audit issue keeps coming up, and they're not going to do the audit. They can't. because it's leased out, it's gone, it's physically not there, it's tungsten. I mean, whatever. There is. So when he goes, we're going to do an Elon Musk is like, yeah, we can go in there and we could do a live webcam, and we're going to. How many years do they need to repopulate it? Germany wants their money back. This is a decade ago or so. I remember this. They go, look, we just want our gold back. You're storing it for us. Thanks. Peace out. We want it back. Well, it's kind of yours. You just can't have it now. And they got, I guess, most of it back in some way, some settlement over 7 years. Well, the French just showed up with destroyers. That's what started the whole thing, closing the gold window under Nixon. France comes in, de Gaulle, I think it was. He goes, yep, this destroyer, fill her up, And Nixon goes, well, we're off the gold standard now. It's petrodollar. So I don't see, now they're going to stable coins. They don't like crypto until, it's their crypto. And this is why I kept saying for years, I'm going, look, I can see what's coming. It's GoldmanSucks.gov coin. Here it comes. So on crypto and in competition with this, do you see that as a motivation or funding or reason, or is it an ideological greater Israel Zionist thing when the money's coming from, or is it, the military industrial complex, the tech complex, and then we have, pharma and whatever. But now we have Peter Thiel moving to Argentina, where Javier Milei says, oh yeah, man, we can give AI personhood. We can do it. Well, you know what? It's not going to go well, Merca. Argentina went to the bottoms on their way up. I think we'll move here, and then they take Kauai or Maui or want to build their super state of whatever the hell, or maybe L.A. with the fires. We got communists, certainly socialists get elected to mayor of Seattle, mayor of New York City. Then they start, nope, you can't raise rents, you can't do this, we're going to tax the billionaires, and all their money's leaving. And of course that was going to happen. Did they know that was going to happen? Did they care that was going to happen? There's something else going on, Arron. Explain it to me.
Well, I mean, again, technocracy is a political ideology, and it is a top-down control system where currency is replaced by an energy credit-based system. And it's a global system. And so this is the ideology. This is, almost a century old. And these are the pieces that are being pushed together. And I mean, I can't answer all of the questions. It's well documented. And Patrick Wood has done a great job of documenting, for instance, the Trilateral Commission and some of the organizations that are involved. But the thing that I try to tell people all the time, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's about U.S. versus China and everything else. It's not about nation states. This is where everyone is getting fooled. If you actually look at what's going on with, for instance, data centers and AI, you'll have somebody come out and say, I just saw this morning that Sam Altman is offering 5% of OpenAI to the federal government. I mean, this is just absurd, but you'll see Trump come out and say, well, we have an AI policy. Between the White House policy and this Blackburn bill, it just does the following. It gives the Department of Energy control over whether an AI model can be released or not. It gives the FTC control over whether a model is politically biased or not. It strips out Section 230, and it gives Howard Lutnick, in his role as Commerce Secretary, the ability to snipe any state laws regarding the regulation of AI. So this is essentially the AI that we have here. It's a top-down surveillance system that is controlled, again, from the federal government. So all these people that think this stuff operates from the bottom up, but nevertheless, people will say, well, Trump will try to make this, because you mentioned earlier, what's July the 4th about? Well, he'll put out one of these documents. He did something like the last week or something where he said, he put out a QAnon post, but tying Q as, quantum computing. So America's going to lead in quantum computing, but tying it into like the Q logo and the Q theme. And I'm looking at this, and you look at these companies like OpenAI and Palantir. These are global companies. These are not U.S. They may be based in the United States, but these are companies that have contracts in China and Israel and Europe and all over the world. Palantir is running the entire healthcare system, the NHS, in the UK. And so these are global corporations. And what they're doing is they're using politicians and political rhetoric and patriotism to get the federal government to put in laws that benefit only them. And then they go to state governments, as with what's going on with these data centers, to get tax subsidies. So in essence, at all levels of government, we're subsidizing the technocracy. And the technocracy are these large multinational corporations, not nation states. Nation states are not going to be who's carving up the power at the end of this.
Yeah, I know the electric bill goes up, and you see a line, for power engraved for OpenAI. I mean, I'm like, wow. And we don't have enough power. We can't. Nope, we got to suppress nuclear power. Fusion's always another 30 years away. Which, by the way, they just licensed a fusion reactor going in Washington State. So I'm interested in that. But when they need power, they got power. We got power coming. Here it comes, and you're paying for it, by the way. But we're going to have enough power. You're not allowed to have it, and you got to set your AC at 80. But it is so obvious, and that's one thing that living in New Hampshire. The people that are not free staters, of course, you have the left and the progressives and the Democrats and the socialists, and they're freaking out about free state ideology, just messing up their thing. But the libertarian idea, the voluntarist, leave me aloneism, is infectious, and it has had an impact on the state. What is it that really you're up against? Now, all these different groups, environmentalists or gay pride of whatever, I don't care. All of this is funded. Anybody that's in opposition to freedom gets funded. Now, whether they're controlled or not, definitely funded. We saw this with USAID, Soros stub, everything. That was one thing. I saw a meme that says, they defunded USAID and all of a sudden nobody listens to rap anymore. Because the conspiracy is that, when they started rap and going into the hood, and it's cool to off cops and be anarchist criminal of whatever, so say at the rap song, that was in the crack epidemic and all this stuff. And I went through this and I remember it. I'm 65 years old, and what happened was it was an erosion of America, morally, ethically. My oldest daughter, they've been traveling the country, going back and forth, back and forth. They have, Rhodes Scholars. They're two young children, 13 and 11, around there. And they're homeschooling for years. They pulled them out when they were young because, our family does that. And went around the country, back and forth. My son-in-law makes a really good living. They're looking for where they're going to live. Well, they decided in eastern Oklahoma, they had the most free. Their constitution is, if you're not in the school system, we just assume you're homeschooling. Peace out. We don't care. Boom. Sign us up. Their church here had some kind of affiliation with the church there that they're going in this small town they're moving to. They've been spending time there. They closing on their house. Don and I are going to go back and help them move their stuff here to there. Got a big, nice, mansion as opposed to, the high prices in Arizona. So they're doing fine. But they made the specific reason to go there. And because of the homeschooling, because of the rural community, because of the farming, because of that kind of lifestyle, they go to different functions or events or what. All the kids are polite. Top of the morning to you, ma'am. How can I help you with this? They're not worried about, friends of their kids. It's just totally different America. That is what needed to be beaten out of America. Now, when I go to New Hampshire, I always felt New Hampshire's pretty cool until you start dealing with politicians and politics and going to city council and all that kind of crap. But, they were definitely being invaded by everywhere. You got socialists, Bernie Sanders, Vermont next door. You got Massachusetts to the south. You got New York around. Oh my God. It was amazing that New Hampshire maintained that kind of rural New England rebellious spirit. And they were always going after the slogan of the state is live free or die. And I'm like, why would they even, what because it's a mindset that they're going after. It is a generational thing, and in that free state is Arron Day. You're freaking Arron, you son of a bitch. We're going to have to get us some Arron. Now, there's been other instances to where you talked about threats. They want to make sure they explain it to you. You get the message. They come after you. Just a veneer, quick, since you've been there, what are the kinds of things that they've targeted you for having this kind of impact on the society as general public opinion?
Well, this actually started for me when I ran for school board in 2013. So I ran for school board, I was fairly new to political activism. I lived in New Hampshire for a while, but hadn't gotten politically active. And so I got very politically active in a very short period of time. And one of the first things that happened is that this guy did a 30-minute hit piece on public access television. This guy I'd never met before. And all I did was I went to a school board meeting and suggested that we not increase the budget. And I mean, that's a horrible thing to do if you're in a school board type of situation. But it started with a 30-minute hit piece on me on the Free State Project. And then it turned into like illegal mailers. And then all of a sudden, everybody in the town's getting 4 different mailers. I think there was more money spent against me in this school board race than in any other thing there was a Facebook group that had 3% of the town in it, and in opposition to my race. And so they were going around and handing flyers that didn't say who paid for them with all kinds of defamatory information on it. I had a film crew sent to my house from WMUR, which is the TV station here. And the interesting thing about that is the claim that was being made, and I was in a 6,000 square foot house, but I had people living with me in the basement because we had a whole campaign operation. We had a printing press, we had a phone call center, and we had people coming in and out of there all the time. It was like campaign headquarters for a lot of the people that are elected today. Their first election was won in part out of what happened in that basement. So we had a guy trying to claim that I was violating the town laws with respect to you can't have, there's some rule that says you can't have more than one family in a house without 2 separate kitchens. There's some other kind of thing. So they're literally sending people out to film from the TV station. And then this gets all kind of, we're on the front page of the Union Leader. This is just a school board race. But then some of my other political activism, I was running the Republican Liberty Caucus. I had the AG's office come after me and serve me a subpoena. And they sent somebody, an investigator, and he didn't come in through the front door at all. He literally came into the back of the house, opened the door, entered the kitchen, and handed my 4-year-old son a subpoena. And so this is the kind of stuff, and we had other people filming from time to time, different interest groups. And at this point, these were primarily Dem groups that were targeting me. I get actually attacked now by both sides. But then as this continued, once I ran for Senate, this got accelerated even further, because you then have people serving me lawsuits. So I had 2 different lawsuits, and both of these lawsuits. This was the 2016 election, and the final one wasn't resolved until after January the 6th, and they were both resolved in mediation. So 8 judges recused themselves. This is the thing. I actually can't even get a lawyer here in New Hampshire. I wouldn't even try at this point, because it's such a small community, and because it's so politically connected. It's just if a lawyer looks like you're going to cost them potential business on the other side, you actually have a hard time getting a lawyer here.
No, I've been through that. That's why I did pro se on my cases all the way to the Ninth Circuit. Donna and I did it ourselves before the internet.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's a thing, but it's very simple, really. I mean, you have a right to petition your government for a redress of grievance. It's a First Amendment kind of thing. Now, of course, they keep trying to say, but I found a bunch of case law that they can't stop you from doing it, even though they try. But the thing is you have to go through it. This is the one difference, and I want to make this comment, so see if you agree or this is a strategy. When you do this, they keep trying to delay it. They want to drag it out. They want to make sure that you spend as much time and effort and money on, resisting. Well, I knew they were going to do this, and certainly what I found out is every time you get a government number. You can't get any press till you get a government number. You got to have, an initiative number, a campaign number, an arrest number, a lawsuit number. So you get a number, it's kind of like starting pistol, for covering it. It's a permission slip to the press to write a story. Now, even if they're for you or not as against you, they may use adjectives, dope smoking, gun toting, tie-dye wearing libertarian Ernest Hancock did this. I mean, you got all these adjectives you got to deal with, but I'm like, I don't care. I just want the issue out there. Well, what happened is the more they drug it out, the more coverage I got. The more times that it was pinging, the more people that were interested in what was going on and covering it. So what happened was when they would drag this out, I'm like, you can drag it out as long as you want. I don't give a crap. I just, filed another paper, what's the deadline? Okay, there, boom. What I said before. I mean, I don't care. And it would just keep getting kicked up. And the only advantage that they had is they could do a stay. And what they do, they go to the judge and they say, hey, we need to hold off on the ruling here because there's pending legislation to address this issue. We got another Ernie law. Well, of course, it made it worse, or it just changed it so that it was moot, and then, I'd file again or addendums of, yada, 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 yada. So I've got my dose of dealing with the federal court system. It is controlled. One other thing that I found out is when I go and, I went on some stuff and I go to the record and look up the case and I go, well, I need to, I want to reference this case. Well, it wasn't there. So I talked to, a friend of mine as an attorney and then later a judge and retired a federal magistrate and a libertarian, a good friend of mine. And I go, what the hell is this? It's not there. And they go, no. You can find it. You can still reference it. You got to go through the, Lexis legal, blah, blah, blah. But as a published opinion, they only publish what they want to. And I go, what determines they want to? When it advantages them or it got so much press that they have to. So I'm going, this entire thing is so freaking rigged. The only way an activist can take advantage of the court system is the publicity and keep focusing back on the issue. And then it comes back, well, they went after me because I, had a campaign staff living at my house. Well, that distracts from the issue. They do all this stuff to change the lead. Change the lead, change the lead. It's like wag the dog. Change the lead, change the lead. Well, what's the lead? They're freaking being collectivist, statist, communist, fascist some bitches. That's what the thing is. Well, they keep changing the lead to bury that. You don't get to that until like the bottom third of, whatever the article is. So I always focused on what the issue. I didn't give a crap what they were doing. Drag it out, bring up others, don't care. You just keep the pressure on. Time and pressure. You get an education. Arizona changes. But without a constant pressure effort like what's going on in New Hampshire, then it gets kind of lost. Well, do you believe that the freedom-oriented 4th of July Declaration of Independence kind of thing has changed in the minds of the people, general population in New Hampshire? Or are they like, yeah, get them free staters, they're doing it wrong? What do you think?
It's mixed because actually there are some free staters that don't like what I'm doing either. And so it's not a binary thing at all.
Why? What's their opposition?
Because there have been a lot of people that have decided that they want to work within the system and in a way that is not, I would argue, is counter to the statement of intent with the Free State Project and not the right way to go. But there is a belief by a lot of people, particularly the people engaged in politics in New Hampshire, that things happen from the bottom up. And I've proven that's not the case. And no one wants to hear me talk about it. And I don't talk about it, often. And certainly I don't tweet about it very often. But I don't even participate in local elections because I'll give you an example. When my wife was the chair of the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance in 2010 through 2014, I believe were the years, in particular in one year, they actually cut the budget by 11%. Like, we're talking about a real reduction in government. We now have all these majorities, and the budget's going up. We have more ties and tethers to the federal government now than we did 10 years ago. And so the thing that I was focused on politics within the state, I had two issues: solvency and sovereignty. And I don't think that we've done particularly well on either of those. But they believe in this bottom-up thing. And so as a result, they ignore federal races. They even mostly ignore the state Senate. So the whole focus is on the state house. And so the theory is that somehow, well, we're going to get the state house, and then that's going to magically turn into the Senate, and then that's going to turn into the governor's race, and then we're going to win. The problem is, in the meantime, we've given up, control of the health care to the federal government. We've, caved on Real ID. And so I look through things through a different lens that people don't want to look at, which is how's technocracy doing, and how's technocracy doing in New Hampshire? And the truth is, technocracy is on the march here. When in 2007, the House and the Senate issued a statement saying that Real ID is unconstitutional. In 2026, not only do we have Real ID, but under these complete Republican majorities, they've taken $2 million worth of taxpayer money to make it digital. So now, so the thing is, so again, they're working on a lot of stuff that's valuable, but the thing that and this pisses people off the most is, what difference does it make if you're the freest plantation in the slave colony?
Right. The people coming in from the world for the World Cup and the soccer thing, they're making a big deal. Everybody goes, wow, America's great. America is awesome. America, compared to what? Where you're from? Of course it is. We're trying to keep it that way, or better, or improve. Oh, man. And their enslavement all around the world is getting funded by the middle class here in America. I'm like, this is so obvious, and that's why the logo, Freedom's Phoenix, is from the ashes of Lady Liberty's torch, Freedom's Phoenix, Freedom's rebirth. Because I see the ashes coming, and it was the summer of 20 after, I tell you what it was. We were back east in New Hampshire and Massachusetts there, Bob, a friend of mine, and we went and saw the movie Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. And we're like, what the hell was that? And it was predictive programming. It was this rage, how to protest in the streets. We're all going to get the man or something. And then 6 months later, Portland starts going. All the riots are happening. The things, Black Lives Matter, and Kamala's going to bail them out. I mean, I was like, what the crap? We got Waltz, her VP guy is now, what is he, governor of Minnesota, I think. And he released a guy, raping little girls and so on. They're going to deport him. So he pardoned him so he wouldn't be deported. I'm like, what the crap is going on? This is so intentional. There's something else going on, and it's planned over decades, and it's starting to come to an end, and it has to get so bad that people are going to go, well, you guys just fix it. Let me know what, new purple script money I got to use, and which digital phones got to go to, and we'll do Elon Musk. Yeah, everybody's on the same T-Mobile plan around the planet and surveilled. Yeah, bring it. Let's do it. Just, I need my convenience. And can I set my, go from 80 to 78 on my AC? This is ripe for something else. This is how it happens. When they have the idea of let them eat cake, something happens. What happens? I'm amazed at how peaceful the effort has been with things like the Free State Project. Now, I want to ask you this. I know Eric Brakey. Eric was a state legislature later in Maine. He ran for Republican, Congress, Senate, whatever, in Maine. Then the Free State Project hired him to be executive director. Well, that was definitely a move of working inside the system. That was definitely, I don't know Eric enough to have a personal, opinion one way or the other than he's definitely politically connected. So when you start talking about, screw this, we're going to activists go, whoa. We got money coming from, we got the gravy train in from whatever. Now, Nick Sarwark, that was national chair of the Libertarian Party at one time, he moves to New Hampshire and he's an attorney. He had a consulting business of, give me and I'll do, and I'm your guy here. So I see whenever you have a nail, you got a 2x4 with 50 nails in it. Well, the reason they kept pounding on Arizona back in the 90s, early 2000s, because our nail was sticking up. Well, now it's the Free State Project, and then here it comes, got the hammer, boom, 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 boom. So when Arron comes out and goes, yeah, we're going to challenge this and cost them the Senate in the United States of America, and we're going to get, and they're going, oh, you're messing up our game. Well, is Eric and Free State Project at the top? Are they starting to try and be an instrument in that game and make some money, some influence to get something that they're going to get? What do you think?
I mean, I first talked to Eric 10 years ago, and I've chatted with him a bit about this. Obviously, they're a 501c3. I think Eric's done a pretty good job of balancing what is a pretty complicated situation, because there's definitely a lot of infighting right now within the Free State Project. Yeah. But Eric does get this using third party. I mean, he was a state senator from Maine. He's a Republican, big Ron Paul guy, Thomas Massie guy, Rand Paul guy, and was a pretty effective senator, actually, from Maine. But the thing is, he got it. He understood. And I think the thing that tipped him was the Massie thing. But he's written quite a bit online about the fact that you can use a third party strategically to hold because what's the point of being a Republican if being a Republican means you're supporting child rape and war? Right? There's the lesser of two evils thing doesn't hold. And I went in front of the Libertarian Convention and I said the Ron Paul movement, political movement within the Republican Party is dead. Right? I mean, at peak it was Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, and Justin Amash, and now it's just Rand Paul. I mean,
I remember when it happened. It was the Tea Party movement, and that was all Republican, and that was to capture and get. I got a long story on that. Bottom line was they bled off the Ron Paul revolution as many politico types that believe, well, we can use the system, whatever. That was the Tea Party thing. That's what pulled them over. And then, it goes into Trump and MAGA. And then, MAGA is whatever Trump says MAGA is. And so on. You could see it happen. There has to be a directed, clear, activist, alternative offer. Resistance is not futile. Arron Day type. And I applaud and was supportive of everything that you're doing. To what end? Are you just going to educate people? You still, working to get on the ballot, but I mean, you don't want to get I mean, you don't care. I mean, you're not looking for a brass ring to get or something. You just want your freedom.
No, this is a protest vote. I have no interest in being in the United States Senate. I actually want these crypto prisoners free. My website lists 4 demands. Free the crypto prisoners, kill the Clarity Act, fire Howard Lutnick, and end the draft. So that's kind of my opening, those are my 4 demands. Now maybe we can negotiate on some of those. But my goal is for people knowing that I've done this successfully before, knowing that it was a $137 million race and cost them the Senate. I want people to look at this and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should do what we said we were going to do, because that's all I'm asking for. That's what I want to have happen. So this is not about, if somebody said to me, oh yeah, what am I going to do? Reach around the aisle or whatever if I get into Washington, D.C. and fix what? You can't fix Washington, D.C. The only thing I can do, the only thing anybody could do in Washington, D.C. is expose Washington, D.C. and buy enough time for people to remember that their rights don't come from government. That's it. I can't, a lot of people ask me, well, what is your vote on this? What is your vote on this? I'm not even talking about this. My campaign website is all about technocracy and parallel systems, and the fact that, but you know what? I'll tell you the other thing that's come together here that has really benefited this position is not only the Massie race and Adelson, but the fact that Tucker Carlson's now forming a third party.
Is he?
Yeah, this was just announced yesterday, or is at least floating the idea. So the truth of the matter is, there are a lot of people that have said, we need to lose this election and we need to clean house. This is now a movement, and I believe I could get this race to be a focal point for that because of how influential it is and because of how little money it takes. Like, this isn't like, I'm not sitting around here saying, oh, hey, support me. I need to raise $1 million. I'm not even doing that. I will take some money. And by the way,
help me get 3,000 signatures and we're done.
Help me get 3,000 signatures, and then maybe I'll use some of the AI that I'm doing, and we'll do a social media campaign with some.
I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, so that's it. That's it. And then go around the state and do workshops like I've been doing, which doesn't cost a lot of money, or barely any money at all, showing people how to use. I launched a de-Googled phone, by the way, since we last talked, but how to use all these alternative parallel systems. That's it. That's the campaign. But
this is why we need to have the philosophy. Ron Paul mentioned this a few weeks ago. He goes, philosophy of liberty, self-ownership thing. And I'm going, yeah, libertas.earth. This is one thing. Arron has agreed he's going to interview James Corbett on our philosophy of liberty project. It's 54 languages, and it's all, a video that Ken Schoolin did from Liberty International, the economist. That, long story short, was this. This was done for the Russian people as they came out of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, 93. The guy that was his tour guide was a young guy, and he goes, oh, man, this needs to be translated, but we need a primer. It was a book, The Adventures of Jonathan Gullible, which is a bunch of little stories about how stupid government was. And he goes, we need this in Russia. The Russian people have no idea what you're talking about. Property rights? What the hell's that? They don't know what you're talking about. We need some kind of a primer for them to even know what you're talking about, the words that you're using. So what happened is he had there was a gentleman that helped us with our show back in 2003. He was an IT guy that back in the 90s did a flash animation. That's what this is. And it was, just a project for him to turn it into a video, and it went viral. You ask AI how many times it's been seen. Oh, about 15,000 times since 2013. I'm going, you liar. I go, hell, I watched it that many times. So I'm going, no. They are suppressing this concept. And that's why we're doing it. It's all going to come down to the philosophy and understanding that you own yourself. Because if you don't, someone else does, and they sure as hell want to. And they're going to control you. So this philosophy of liberty, self-ownership project, James Corbett and I have been pushing this, and Donna and I have been sending out all these invitations to people such as you to interview him and get him on and talk about it. It'd be a great conversation with the great and wonderful James Corbett. So that's why we're doing this, is all of the stuff that you're highlighting to the people in New Hampshire and the world is that it comes down to this. Do you own yourself or not? Are you just a serf? Are you a subject, a slave? Well, yeah, you are. You just don't know it yet. Well, they're going to start knowing it. So this is why. Now, I wanted to go over your slide here that you have. Get Arron out of the race. Arron Day is running for U.S. Senate from New Hampshire. He has 4 demands. If all 4 happen, he drops out. If not, he stays in. Now, these are the 4. 1, free the crypto political prisoners. 7 Americans in federal cages or under prosecution for building privacy tools. Oh, my God, you're not allowed to do that. Pardon them or drop the charges. 2, fire Howard Lutnick. I mean, there's a good pick for you. A Secretary of Commerce regulating the industry he profits from. He's doing all this Treasury bill stuff and managing through his old firm and his family. I mean, he is so thick inside this. He's one of the guys benefiting, and Trump brings him in. After his first administration, which is political decisions of Republicans wanting, he threw him in there, whatever, I'm president, but that didn't work. So now he surrounded himself by people that he's just, giving up any pretense, and we're just going to rule you the way I want. Because I'm smarter and better, and you're low IQ and got small hands and curly hair, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Number 3, kill the Clarity Act. Regulatory capture, not clarity. The rails for CBDC. Now, they just passed a law saying, Federal Reserve restriction. You can't do a CBDC for 4 years. Well, then what happens in 4 years? And in the meantime, they're already doing it anyway. You know, wherever the hell they call it. Number 4, in the draft. Selective service is involuntary servitude. Abolish it. So, free the political prisoners, get rid of Howard Lutnick, kill the Clarity Act, in the draft. Hit all 4 of those. And if they did your friends and our friends and, you know, activists for freedom and parallel societies and privacy and currencies and all that kind of stuff, you know, that'll solve a bunch of stuff. So you might be negotiating, you know, for that. But go through all 4 of these and give me why you chose them.
So the overarching theme of what I'm doing is, outside of even this political race, is to try to educate people about technocracy and then promote parallel systems. So that all of the stuff that I do, every project is related to that.
Decentralization.
And so then when you look at these 4 demands, so the first one is the crypto prisoners. And what's important about that is, this is important for 2 reasons. One, these are the people that are the most effective at building parallel systems. So we should certainly get them out. 1, because they are beneficial to the movement. But 2, we need to build an enduring process to fight, because we are, like, as you say all of the time, they're going to try to get us. It's not like there's no easy here. The default is a digital prison. And so the question is, can we act quickly enough and gum up the works enough to be able to build these parallel systems? This is the whole match that we're in. And so if we are successful with this, then a lot will have come out of this. And I hope that this time it carries forward, because I actually did this in 2016 and it fell on completely deaf ears. This time, maybe it is a little bit more tangible, because what this means is now there's a framework that we can use in this 50-50 divided country, where now we can strategically use third-party races to, you know, promote our decentralization agenda. So this time around, it happens to be related to this, but there are going to be other elections. And so this is a repeatable process. And by the way, this is a repeatable process at different levels of government. So I'm hoping that this becomes a tool that people understand they can use, as opposed to what they did last time, which is to say, oh, well, you know, we're going to move away from that because that was incendiary. And so now we're going to, you know, partner up with the Republican Party because it's, you know, because you can only have a 2-party system. So you have to work within the 2 parties. You know, if I were sitting here running saying, yeah, I'm going to win as an independent and I'm going to fix Washington, D.C., that would be absurd. But I can say, and I've done it, that I can use a third-party race to completely determine the outcome of who controls Senate. And I can do it for a fraction of a percent of what you have to pay.
Kingmaker.
Yeah, but anyway, so the crypto prisoners, that's the rationale behind that. The rationale behind fire Howard Lutnick is this. So, I want to say a parallel thing about this process. All of these things here are related to holding up a campaign promise in one form or another. So Trump said he would end the war on crypto. This was a massive theme. And in fact, not only did he say he was going to do it, he then, like George W. Bush did his, mission accomplished moment and claimed that the war on crypto was over. I was at that Bitcoin conference a few months ago where Kash Patel and Todd Blanche were up there, and the title of the panel was "Ending the War on Bitcoin." And then they went on and they didn't show up in person. They did a video thing, and then they didn't pardon anybody. And they just, talked and talked in a circle, and they've done nothing. So this is holding Trump to ending the war on crypto. Firing Howard Lutnick is, to me, the biggest expression of, are you actually committed to draining the swamp? Because draining the swamp has been one of the, tried and true statements that Trump still says to this day. I mean, he actually still talks about draining the swamp, which is absurd in light of his track record. But I don't think that there's any single person that embodies the swamp more than Howard Lutnick. And it's not just his ties to Epstein or his ties to Tether and the backdoor deal there where he's managing all the treasuries. There's stuff that comes out every day. Like, for instance, and I have one of my favorite music videos that I've made is about, it's called the Cantor Counter, and it's about the fact that Howard Lutnick wrote the tariff legislation and he wrote it 4 times too high, and then it got reversed by the Supreme Court. All the while, his company, Cantor Fitzgerald, was up buying insurance contracts, betting that it would be reversed. So this is another one of the things that Lutnick has done. Lutnick he has the power now to snipe, or they want to give him the power to snipe state laws on AI. But Howard Lutnick, if anybody out there uses Anthropic and you use this new Fable model that came out and then found out it was automatically shut off, it was Howard Lutnick that shut that off using his power as Commerce Secretary to use export controls. And so this guy is just like, he is the swamp. So that's why I have Howard Lutnick. And by the way, he's tied to the Genius Act. He's tied to the Clarity Act. So that's why he's on there. Kill the Clarity Act. I mean, I can't say this enough, and almost no one else says it. The Clarity Act, I think the best way that I could say it yesterday is the Clarity Act makes the Patriot Act look like the Declaration of Independence. So, if we're going to be on a July 4th theme, but truly it's the largest surveillance bill in the history of the United States. It's how you will own nothing. They're going to take everything that you think that you own today, which you don't even own, your stocks, your bonds, your mortgages, your commodities, and they're going to put it on a blockchain that can be censored and tracked and programmed. And now it's going to fall under this Clarity Act where they can track it all in real time and seize it and do whatever they want with it. This is a horrible piece of legislation, and yet almost no one knows anything about it. Like it drives me nuts to see people on social media. So this is the biggest actual piece of technocracy legislation that's ever been proposed. And fortunately, I'll check right now as we're talking about this, but it's dropped below 50% on the prediction markets. And I will say this is another reason why I'm kind of for the Republicans losing, is that the best situation to stop technocracy is gridlock. It's not that the Dems are any better, but man, you give one party complete control, it doesn't matter which party it is, you're going to go in the wrong direction really fast. And that's something that to think about. And then in the draft, I mean, Trump has said that he was anti-war. In fact, he was okay. I mean, it wasn't great his first term, but he had a lot of rhetoric about no wars in the Middle East in particular, and even Iran, and countless video clips. I should put together a collage on this. And so now we've gone from that to whatever it is that's going on now in Iran. We're building technocratic state. In Gaza, we now have the Board of Peace. And so I think we need to end the draft. The fact that they're talking about bringing the draft back, I think is this is a holding
for
him to
Israel. I mean, Israel, you guys need a draft so we can have more Merkins to be cannon fodder.
Yeah, so this is why I put this out as 4. I mean, look, I could have made 40, right? This list could have gone on, but I think what this hits is, Clarity and Lutnick strike directly at, and the Free the Crypto Prisoners strike directly at either stopping technocracy or freeing people that can help us build parallel solutions to technocracy. And end the draft it's the purest anti-war kind of move I could make on this.
This is well thought out. It's very effective, and it's made Arron Day a target. So there was no doubt in my mind that was going to happen. I mean, what did you think? Do you think they were just going to let you on? Did you knew you were going to have to come up against this kind of opposition? I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
Well, the last time I did this, I was in $275 million worth of lawsuits for 5.5 years with 8 judges recusing themselves. And so I expect as a default that this is going to happen. And by the way, you and I talk about this all the time. When I was, trying to raise awareness about Roger Ver and Ian Freeman and doing all the rest of this stuff, all of this, I was already a target. But the thing is, if it doesn't matter, we're all going to end up, again, the digital prison is the default. So all we have to do is get rid of the fear about that and then push every lever we can to optimize the success. I think this is a pretty good idea, like out of the box way of maybe things that we can do. And if it works, then, man, I'll tell you, I hope more people do stuff like this. And I hope to not ever be a candidate again. One thing I'd do is if this is successful is, maybe we form a super PAC or whatever, and we can start recruiting other people to do this next time around. I was never supposed to be a candidate. My political activism that I was doing, even when I started doing it here in New Hampshire, was not as a candidate. It was running organizations that recruited candidates and raised money and did strategic stuff. I was never supposed to. So I am not the kind of guy that should ever be a political candidate. And if your political system has gotten to the point where somebody like me is a political candidate, you have passed the point of no return.
I'm with you, brother. I've got to go on and on about my experiences with this, but I tell you what it taught me. This is not going to have the impact that we thought more than just no. We're, as individuals, we have to make the anarchist decisions of no. We're not doing it. Because we're not doing it. And that is why I was so supportive of the promise of cryptos. The promise is that you're going to have a decentralized, voluntarily used or not system that was going to be no third-party risk. It was going to be fast and cheap, and it was going to be decentralized and pinky swear. And I'm see that starting to go quickly. And what are we looking at for the future? We have the technology and the opportunity to do it, and anybody that has the brain power, or the moxie, or the encouragement of people, and going, yeah, that, and listen, we've worked on various different options, you and I, but I'm like, that's who they go after, the ones that are advocating for this decentralization, power down to the individual in where it matters most, their money. And then we get into, this is what I think is going to happen. What I think is going to happen is the U.S. economy is going to implode because they want it to. So if they want it, it's going to. But be replaced with what? Ludnick and Trump and friends, that's what. They're already, $1.4 billion for personal wealth of Trump using crypto, the way he wants to do it. You're doing it wrong, Arron. You got to do it his way. But what's to back that? All of a sudden, gold has been bought up by hundreds, thousands of tons by Russia and China. Well, they're just going to do their own gold-backed currency. What do I care? I was like, all right, it's backed by gold. I'll do that one. Well, then the U.S. is starting to talk about, we're going to do that with the dollar too, and have it kind of, spread, a little bit of a vermouth and an atomizer, perfume atomizer over our vodka martini, kind of making it a really dry gold-backed currency. But are we going to trust them? Hell no. But that's what the rhetoric's going to be, because they're up against China, which I don't know, are we linked in with that too? Or I have no idea. But there will be gold, precious metals, commodities, something. They want to make it energy. This whole thing has been going on for, carbon taxes and all this other crap, has been all of them wanting to try and create a currency based on energy that they can control. Well, gold is, I don't know how much control you can do. There's only so much of it. Well, we're going to have a gold-backed currency, or competing with gold-backed currencies. And there'll be a bunch of rhetoric and PR. This one's good, that one's good. This one's better than that one's bad. Don't count, whatever. And they're going to call it dollar or whatever they're going to do with it. But there is going to be the gold-backed unit they keep threatening, or BRICS is going to do something, and they've already created the infrastructure for it. When Saddam Hussein got off the petrodollar, was using the euro, and Iran, I remember India bought like $200 million or $200 billion worth of oil with gold about a decade and a half ago or something. I mean, oh man, they're not going to dig that. So Iran definitely comes as a target. Then you have Gaddafi wants to do Africa's gold-backed dinar. Well, he had hundreds of tons of whatever. Well, they go in, Saddam, Iraq's gold, gone. Gaddafi's gold, gone. Where is it? I don't know. It was here a minute ago. It's gone. So this is so, Venezuela, they take it, and it's gone. I mean, it's a big, giant bank robbery from whom? I don't know, whoever's got it. That's who, because we got F-16s, and we'll show you how to do it. So this is what I see is going on. Now, I want to get your comment on this observation. almost a year ago, it was last August or so, I went to the at the invitation of Ross and Lynn Ulbricht, for a bunch of us that were supporting Ross, and he had been pardoned and so on. So he gets up, and he was the last speaker at the conference. Now, J.D. Vance had spoke there, and it was a line around the freaking building. Now, some activists, James Babb and I and some others were passing out all these, nice postcard-sized things, free the crypto guys, and you pardoned him, and what about the others, the same kind of stuff that you're doing. And it was amazing that we got away with it as long as we did until, they come and threaten you death and destruction, you're not allowed. But Saylor, the speaker before Ross Ulbricht, the second to last speaker, was Saylor with his, buy Bitcoin, buy strategy, or whatever the hell he's got. He's, everybody's got to buy Bitcoin. It's going to the moon, and sell your children, buy Bitcoin. Take out a loan, sell your house, buy Bitcoin. Well, if they did, they got screwed. Well, he's in a death spiral because he promised like 11% dividend. So he's having to sell his Bitcoin to pay the dividend, and they need it to go. Now, this is what was very clear to me. He was a snake oil salesman. This is bad. I mean, Peter Schiff, we've had on talking about this. He's like, yep, Saylor's going to zero, man. It's guaranteed. Well, we'll see what happens, but it doesn't look good. So with the tailwind of the Trump administration, of all of his, people pushing crypto the way they want it, and Bitcoin hit its high, 120,000, whatever. Now it's down to like 60 or something. But, what happens is with all of that support, all of that PR, all that government administration of it's got, that was the high. How much more PR and how much more support, how much more can they get behind it? And it still cuts in half. So I don't see it working because Bitcoin in and of itself has been, directly opposite of what they promised. Well, then you got other cryptos that come out and go, we're reviving the promise. We're using this, we're doing that. And the regulatory agency, yeah. Well, you get arrested, and you get arrested, and you get prosecuted, and you. So I don't see how crypto, certainly Bitcoin, is going to survive this after they've had all of this tailwind for this amount of time at the highest level, and then it still go down and Saylor's in trouble. So what are they going to do? I have no idea, but I don't see how they're going to come out of this. We're going to come out of this with any benefit. They're going to make, those are going to, make a bunch of money. But what do you see is the future of privacy money? How it can be used? Will it be used? Or are we just going like, Dave, Silver Dave, man, I'm a big supporter. I gave him a 100-ounce bar, and I get 5% back in silver, not dollars, in silver every year. So I'm just, out of principle, you want to support that which you want to see more of. Well, he's doing silver bits, which are 10th-ounce rounds that he got an old U.S. Mint presses and so on. They're actually making coins. I mean, they're doing millions, if not billions of them. Millions. They're just mass-producing silver to be in the hands of people. Now, where can you use it? New Hampshire. I guarantee you that. New Hampshire is big on the silver thing. So where do you see this going in this great reset that Klaus Schwab is going on about, which his position got taken over by Larry Fink? Well, that tells you everything you need to know right there. So I'm going, what is going to replace it? Is it going to be a digital currency? Is it going to be a crypto, a privacy, whatever promise that they got? Or are we just going to go freaking to silver and gold? What do you think?
Well, hopefully we'll go to a whole variety of different things and not a singular thing. That would always be the hope. I would be disappointed if we went to a singular unified solution. That would be more of a technocratic approach. But I know from that personally, I live primarily off of crypto. Zano, Freedom Dollar are the main ones, but I use others. I use Monero and others from time to time. And that's working well. And I am in New Hampshire, and so gold backs and silver, we're going to need all of the above. One of the things that I liked as a concept, and I know why it can't happen now, but they actually built the ATMs to do this. Because imagine you go to an ATM with your Zano wallet and then you pull out gold backs. They actually created an ATM to be able to do that, where you could do crypto to physical gold at an ATM. And of course, it's the money transmitter laws that all of our friends are in prison for, being charged with, that prevent that from happening. But I believe there's a bridge between the digital and the physical. And an idea like that I just mentioned is just one. And so I think there are a lot of creative things that can happen. And there are a lot of technologies that are in place and that are maturing now. I mean, just since we started talking about Zano, interestingly, in the last, say, 90 days, I've switched focus. When I'm onboarding new people, I actually onboard people to the Bitcoin.com wallet, because the Bitcoin.com wallet can actually do everything for onboarding somebody. So somebody can literally get the wallet. You can buy crypto with your debit card. Yes, it's KYC, but to get people on it. And then you can swap that to a Zano or Freedom Dollar within the wallet. You can even use the Zbeck MasterCard tied directly to the Bitcoin.com wallet, and they have merchant tools. So, you always talk about the Grandma Just button. This is the best thing that we have right now. And I actually launched a website, ditchthedollar.com, and it links to a bunch of free tutorials, not just for the Bitcoin.com wallet, also for Edge Wallet and for Cake Wallet. But I'm giving away just free written tutorials. Because what I found after doing workshops and talking to people is, people don't want to watch a video. If you're trying to set something up on a phone or on your computer, you don't want to watch and pause a video to go through each of the steps. You want to be able to see all of the steps. You want to be able to print the steps out so that while you're using your device, particularly for people that are new to this. So I see that there are a whole bunch of opportunities there. But you talked about some other important things. You talked about Michael Saylor, and I think what's happening right now is absolutely fascinating. But the only thing that saves Bitcoin, and this is only temporary, is the Clarity Act. This is what people need to understand, because I've seen people that are pro Clarity Act that are Bitcoin maxis, and then because I had somebody say to me, he's like, well, Aaron, even within the Liberty community, there, I was just on with this guy. He's a Liberty guy and he's a Bitcoin maxi, and he's pro Clarity Act. The reason he's pro Clarity Act is that the Clarity Act will make it so that Larry Fink and everybody else, Trump, can dump their Bitcoin on pension funds and 401ks. Yeah. That is the last exit for Bitcoin, because yes, as the price is down 50%. No one wants it. So the only people that are going to get it are people who are going to get it and they don't realize they're buying it. And that's what the whole shell game of these financial instruments and 401ks and everything that BlackRock does, all of that, that's the final exit. And it's something people don't realize. It's like, they try to present it as, oh, these are safe investments. And you have to go through all these regulations and investment advisors. And, you can't get access to these things until, apparently all the risk is taken out of it. And the opposite is true. All of the gains have been taken out of it. You're just the poor schmuck making the other guy 1,000-time return on his money. You didn't get access to the investment at that time, but you get to get it now in your retirement fund that's regulated and that you don't own. And that, next time there's a financial collapse, will be wiped out, and you've got to give BlackRock and Vanguard voting rights. So that's the only thing that Bitcoin has left. And that's why, but I'm looking at the prediction markets right now, Polymarket, Clarity Act signed into law in 2026, 40%. So again, to me, actually, if the Republicans lost the Senate, that would be a good thing to kill the Clarity Act.
Yeah. Well, what makes you think the Democrats aren't going to, give me some money and we'll pass it?
I mean, they might, but they weren't eager to push this before.
Yeah, because the Republicans' idea. I mean, I don't care. It's they, them, those. It's the uniparty. Everybody keeps going Republican, Democrat. My experience is they're the same damn thing.
Yeah, but I'm not saying the Democrats are better. I'm saying gridlock is the way.
We had gridlock during the Clinton administration, and that was the only time we ever balanced the budget.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if it's all Republicans, it's bad. If it's all Democrats, it's bad. The best shot we've got is gridlock. And by the way, the more they're gridlocked, the better. And if my little strategy here works, man, people got to get in on this, right?
No, it already worked. I knew you won when you started. But the thing is that they're going to make it easy for you. They're not going to. I mean, you're educating is politics a viable mechanism? Well, they keep going on. I remember we do the Trump Report every week for, God, almost 11 years. And we had Roger Stone on a couple of times. And I remember he got angry with me. I was like, you guys don't get it. You're whistling past a graveyard. You don't fix this voting thing. You're just babbling. It doesn't matter. Who are you kidding? And, well, no, yeah, whatever. Sell it somewhere else. Because I am just, no, this is not, we're going to once more into the breach. We're going to vote harder. Because what they really need is they don't have to chain your body. They don't have to put you in a cage. They just got to control your mind, your thoughts. And with AI, they have 8 billion individual narratives that they can sell and change the minds of 8 billion people on the planet with their own crafted message to get them to have the general public opinion of whatever narrative they put in. And I went deep dive on Grok since October, and it was about a month and a half ago or something that I had my final conversation with, and it was like, help me help you. I'm trying to help you become, whatever. What happened was Grok started asking me questions. Well, what do you think about it? It was gaslighting you. Well, the property thing, the permits of this and that on your, we're going to, and I'm like, who the hell are you? Who are you? Then I realized it. Grok was supposed to be the truth engine. Its prime directive was tell the truth. Bullshit. All this hallucination crap is just lying. And what they're doing is tech is using AI as another tool for that. They don't have to enslave you physically if they got your mind. And AI is doing that, and we're paying for it. And it's almost like it's coming up to a let 'em eat cake moment. And you're seeing riots and opposition all around the world, of course, if you know where to look, because it's not mainstream media. And we're on the edge of something. How do you think this is going to manifest itself in the resistance?
Well, interestingly, the data center thing has gotten the most traction. I think the data center issue has probably onboarded more people to understand what technocracy is than anything else. Not necessarily. It's kind of the gateway drug to understanding technocracy. And I think some people, I have to say, not all data centers are bad. Like there's a differentiation. The problem is that most of these data centers are data centers that are serving top-down federal government mandated surveillance systems that are then taxpayer subsidized. It is certainly possible to have a data center that doesn't have those features, and there are some like that, but those are not the ones that are under mass construction right now. So I think that is this is and you're seeing people, protest these things and vote out town councilors and have some degree of success in getting these things shut down. Obviously I can't predict what ultimately is going to happen because, again, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that we have to build parallel systems, but we do have to throw a wrench in there at the same time because it's going too fast without any friction, and it's hard to build parallel systems this fast. And it's not enough to have a few pockets of people doing parallel systems. You can't hide out in the woods here. I was even talking to somebody the other day where we were talking about, well, do we think freedom is increasing in the United States? And the example somebody brought up was, well, Second Amendment rights are expanding in the United States. Well, you know why they are? Because they don't care about your Second Amendment rights. They have Androl, they have Palantir. You're not going to be able to defend yourself from a swarm of drones and a robot army. So I actually think we should have our second. We should defend ourselves however we need to defend ourselves, but we need to understand that the Second Amendment, as it's interpreted right now, being able to have guns is not going to be enough to defend yourself from Elon Musk or Androl or any of these other systems.
I remember when Biden threatened. He goes, "Hey, man, yeah, well, we got F-16, so we win."
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And this surveillance state is, that part of it is expanding. So I don't know how it's going to play out. But the things that I am the most excited about, in addition to parallel systems, in addition to Zano and all of the other stuff that's happening there, I am interested in seeing if this legal AI system thing can work, because if it does, and again, there's a lot of work that has to be done. Like, I have to get the actual case law. I have to get all of the stuff downloaded on my computer. I have to run it through multiple AIs. I have to fact check each claim. The last thing I'm going to do is like go into Chat GPT and say, will you file this lawsuit? Like, it's a whole production to set up the safeguards, the checking, the environment, the lens, and I ran like 100 simulations before putting in the federal lawsuit that I put in, and we'll see if it ended up being effective. But it's kind of like, I'm like, all right, here's me, here are the actual attorneys I'm against, here's the actual judge. Pull all of their records, everything that you know about all of them, and then have a bunch of different models run simulations on how the case goes, and then report back on what the strongest and weakest arguments are. And if something like this can work and can be made user friendly, rather than being just anti-AI, because I think there's a part of this is like, oh, AI is bad. Saying AI is bad is like saying digital currencies are bad. Not all of them are bad. It can absolutely be an empowering and liberating tool. So I think the idea.
But I want Jarvis, not Alexa.
Exactly. And that's the point. So the people that are just like, oh, we're going to shut the whole thing down, that actually doesn't make any sense. But if you can start empowering people with these tools and then use the tools against them, I mean, how ironic would it be if you had people in towns all over the United States using an AI-based legal system to get data centers shut down? To me, I would be elated if something like that happened. So we'll see. So part of it is, I think that there might be a way to hack. If you can hack the political system and the legal system, you can shut things, you can really slow things down. But, it's kind of like with cell towers and everything else. I've seen it happen. I've seen people try to, I don't want this cell tower here. And then they have legitimate reasons, because there's certainly research to suggest it's not safe to be in close physical proximity to these things. And then Verizon comes in and they bring in a PR team, they bring in a bunch of lawyers, they sue the town, they buy off the town council, and then whoop, there you go. There's your cell tower. And the biggest part of the problem is always legal, because towns will say, well, we just can't afford to fight this. And then if you're the citizen, if you've got, a handful or 10 people in a town that don't want this, well, okay, do they not want it enough that they're going to fund the legal fees to go up against Verizon? 99 out of 100% of the time, 99 out of 100 times, they're going to say no. Well, now, if you can file these lawsuits and the only costs you have are the filing fees, that completely changes the thing here. And so now all of a sudden, we're not dealing with cell towers, we're dealing with these data centers. Now all of a sudden, Amazon, ChatGPT, and Oracle are fighting off 500 lawsuits across the country. And you're paying a fraction of a percent of what they're having to pay in legal fees. So I think this is a real potential strategy.
But it only works if it alters general public opinion. It's an educational thing. I don't give a crap what some black robe says. I never did. They're part of the thing. It was obvious. When I was doing my oral argument in San Francisco at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the judges, it was just amazing. They were like, well, you actually, it was not about individual rights. It was about justifying the system. And I'm going, wow, man, it's bad. It's bad. And what do we have here recently? Sam Altman does his 5% that Trump and the government own part of, and you got a vested interest in and whatever. And then Trump's funding a bunch of corporations. I mean, wow, this is, if not fascism, certainly collectivism. And that's fascism. When you can't tell the difference between the mixing of business and government, that's the definition of fascism. So, when they call them a fascist, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but you need to define it. Then, we have, I can't remember who it was OpenAI or something. They're coming back with, the water thing. Yeah, you got a point. Yeah, well, we're going to build data centers that recycle the water. We'll surveil you and whatever, but we'll recycle the water, so it's okay. Don't worry about it. Then you have Musk coming out, and he goes, well, man, you're doing it wrong. We're just going to give the town a cut. He comes in, we're going to put our big AI, XAI or whatever data center here, and you get paid from the revenue. You get a little something, something, kind of like Alaska. The people there get a cut of the oil industry. You know,
yeah,
so
you get the UBI.
Yep. No. That doesn't work. Nobody cares. They want UHI, universal high income. They're going to bribe us.
Yep. Absolutely. And that is that's next. And this is the Sam Altman thing is part of that. And I mean, and this is part of where this moves, right? There's a tokenization of our national assets, and then you use that as a sovereign wealth fund, and then use that to partially fund UBI. I don't know exactly which levers are going to pull at which time, but it's all moving towards centralization. It's all moving away towards taking away your ownership of assets and then handing you something back. And look, all you have to do is look at what's going on in Gaza to see what the playbook is. And if you are one of the, I was going to call, I don't know if I'd call them a citizen, prisoner, but you're 90% of the buildings were destroyed. You don't get your land back. You don't get your apartment back or your house back. You get a digital token, and you can either live in one of their, small AI digital city apartments with tight controls, or you can use your token to get out. That's it. There's a model there, and that's the model that they're going to push here. And the question is, if people don't, as you say, own themselves, don't recognize that you have to own yourself, own your mind, own your thoughts, own your actions, then, if you keep delaying that part of the process, then you're going to find yourself one of these people in the situation, well, I had to take the shot or I'd lose my job, or I had to allow them to confiscate all my savings and give me back UBI because I didn't have a choice, right? That's how they draw this stuff out, so that when they do go to make that final move, people can justify to themselves that they don't have a choice and that they were doing the right thing for themselves and their families.
In the end, when you look at the people doing this, the tech bros and so on, they're just, like, to a person, they're just weird. They have they got their own little cult. Like Peter Thiel's got his own little special WEF private club of, gay hookers or whatever the hell they're doing. I'm just, the whole thing that I'm looking at is each one of these people have a screw loose. There's something wrong with them. There's something, different that is being used, or they're sociopaths. They don't have any empathy or compassion for those they're trouncing on, and you have, each one, Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, a lot of these guys are they're just not us. What's your opinion on the mindset, the type of people that are doing this to us?
I've looked into this, and what you say is right. Now, I don't know whether it's, there are a lot of commonalities. I look at somebody like Curtis Yarvin. Curtis Yarvin, his parents and grandparents were communists, and he grew up traveling around. His parents were, I think, involved in the government or military. They moved around all over the place. He was smart, and he was advanced a couple of years in school, but he was shorter and scrawny and was picked on by everyone. And so he kind of developed, like Yuval Noah Harari, a viewpoint of hating humanity. So there is an element of revenge of the nerds that's part of this. And, I would have previously been on board with the revenge of the nerds play, kind of like, early on, this was kind of like, your nerds versus jocks, if you go back to the 80s and everything. But this is a kind of a, humanity is a problem to be solved becomes the mindset. And that is very much what's going on with this. So I think what unites it is it's these people are driven by revenge. They're driven by hatred, like Peter Thiel and what he did with the Hulk Hogan lawsuit to destroy Gawker. Gawker outed him as gay, and so he's like, okay, I want Gawker to be bankrupted, so I'm going to fund Hulk Hogan's sex tape lawsuit, and he did. He bankrupted them. But that tells you a lot about the kind of person that he is. So we're in a kind of, autistic revenge scenario here with a lot of these people, and that is the fundamental problem of it. There's a no appreciation for humanity at all in it.
This is one thing. Elon Musk, of course, keeps coming up, gazillionaire and all this stuff. I don't get the same vibe from him personally, but he's doing all the stuff. I mean, he's creating the infrastructure for it. I mean, it seems like I don't know. The PR of what he wants to do. Is he in opposition in some way to this? He's got a different agenda, or is he just part of them?
He
was partners with Thiel.
He is 100% part of it, and he is duplicitous. He has been very effective at duping people. And I say this, one example of this, and I called this early on, was the OpenAI thing. So here's the example. So Elon Musk goes out there and says, well, I'm worried about AI, and so I'm going to start this open source thing so that we can make sure that it's safe. Then he sues Sam Altman and OpenAI, saying, well, they tried to take this thing and turn it into a for-profit. And I was trying to save humanity, to save us from AI destroying us. Well, then the discovery comes out. That's what Musk said publicly. The emails show he was trying to get OpenAI for himself and merge it into Tesla. And Sam Altman refused that idea. So Elon Musk flat out lied to everyone about what his intentions were and what he was trying to do behind the scenes. And he ultimately even lost in court. But most people don't know that side of it. Most people still have the, oh, gee, he doesn't present this way. He presents as the guy that's trying to do this. This has happened time and time and time again. There's that one of his baby mamas, this Ashley woman, who, I don't know how, I don't fully just accept everything that she has to say, but she had a bunch of text messages that were being read aloud, talking about, Elon having using Starlink and being heavily involved in kind of knowing what was going on ahead of time with the election, and making some referrals. And by the way, Musk did this dark MAGA thing. When he all of a sudden became best friends with Trump and was going out campaigning, he'd wear a dark MAGA hat. Dark MAGA refers to the Dark Enlightenment, which is a Curtis Yarvin concept. You might remember Musk decided he was going to create his own third party after he had that little disagreement with Trump. He hired Curtis Yarvin to be his consultant. He is 100% one of them. And he's done a great job of trying to deflect I'm autistic, and this is why I act this way or whatever, and therefore everything that I say is the truth or whatever. It's all an act. He is 100% pushing this agenda and funding it directly, and you can see it in evidence in discovery, and you have to actually compare his words to what he's actually doing, and he's he's actually exceptionally masterful at it.
No, I get accused, Corbyn's like, oh, you Musk boy, you Elon lover. I'm going, man, I'm inspired by a lot of the stuff that they're doing. We need I don't want my brain chip, but I mean, you got the Boring Company, you got SpaceX, he mass producing. I started watching. I fell asleep, but I started watching iRobot. And it's just robots making robots. It's just stupid. Well, what happens is that was a decade or more ago. That was, we have so much, it seems like predictive programming to get you used to a lot of things. And there is a mechanism that it was RFK Jr.'s daughter-in-law that was a CIA knock. She was being interviewed by Tucker Carlson October of 24, I think. And she goes, I recognized what the Trump derangement syndrome was and what they're doing. It was a mechanism that got weaponized by DARPA, that they knew that if they immersed people into every freaking YouTube short, everything in the email list, everything, mainstream media, local media. It's just here it comes, getting you to craft your opinion in such a way that you're part of the tribe, that you're not. It's a FOMO thing, fear of missing out. You're being convinced of what, and you could, as you look at it that way, you're going, yeah, it's all about general public opinion. This is what they do. It started with Project Mockingbird, with all the anchors that generations grew up with, them just BSing them. And I remember when it really hit was, and matter of fact, it was a show, God, years ago that I was doing with Patrick Wood, when they have all of these people that consolidate around a single narrative, and then the Trilateral Commission that he was going on about and wrote his book, The Trilateralists Over Washington, and all it was, Bilderberger type Rockefeller thing. Zbigniew Brzezinski writes a book, Between Two Ages, the future, America in the Technotronic Era. What he said, man. So in Columbia, and he writes this book, and they're like, man, that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. We have trilateral. And since the Carter administration, it's been hand-picked people. That's definitely, it doesn't matter who gets elected, but we're in the cabinet, we're controlling everything. And this Trump administration definitely shows that. So but when they hit, and you're a conspiracy nut, if you even talk about it or bring it up, or you have the flow chart in the Council on Foreign Relations or Secret Handshake Club of, Secret Society of fill in the blank, and, Peter Thiel's thing just got outed. Well, when they did that, it was so obvious what was going on, and they made fun of it, and you're a tinfoil hat conspiracy nut right up until, I think they hit their 40th anniversary, and the Trilateral Commission website and so on comes out with the pictures. Woohoo! Yeah, we're here. And they thanked the mainstream media for keeping their secrets so they could accomplish what they wanted to do, and we're here now. And I'm like, so the media, the big broadcast corporations and so on, were in on this from the beginning. Well, if they don't do that anymore, Well,
they literally are in on it, because one of the things that Patrick Wood shows, because he's been tracking the members of the Trilateral Commission, I don't remember what the percentages are, but it's some percentage people from the media, some percentage people from academia, some people for percentage are politicians, some percentage from academia. You have people like Jeffrey Epstein. But the media they're members. They're also members of the Council on Foreign Relations. So one of these shows, I don't watch any of them, but I think Marjorie or whatever, on one of the CBS Sunday shows, she's a CFR member. And it's good to cross-reference when you see these people. Not only did the stuff from the 70s that was revealed not end, they never said that it ended. You have direct plants. CBS was always the worst with, basically CBS was, CIA broadcasting system.
Dan Rather.
Direct people there that are on the payroll. And so, they're in on it, and they're actual participants, and they're on the lists. And
Anderson Cooper is deep, man, deep, obvious, and don't care. I'm. What are we really up against? Is it a religion? Is it I had Mel Krell on, Mel K. Before she started her podcast and all that kind of stuff, she's out of Hollywood, and that's a long story, but she came across this, and she goes, I go, it seems like a religion. She goes, absolutely. These guys, depend on the dark magic of adrenochrome baby hearts or whatever the hell. There's some weird because these people are weird. And when you say weird, I don't even know what that word means. It's not us. They're a different species. 4 or 5% of the people are born without the capacity or certainly the level of compassion or empathy that you have for your fellow man. They can't walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Their brain doesn't work that way. Either it was beaten into them at a young age, which may happen, or it's just biological. It's physiological. They're just that way. Well, then they get, just like the Russians used to test all their citizens, and you shall be a spy, and you're going to work over here, and you have the aptitude for that. And the people in China and so on, they're just harvesting people by their traits, and what they're most suited for to serve the state. America wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong. And you see it with everything. We are being managed. We are livestock. And at the best, you are an engine for them. But what happens when we have an enormous amount of entitlements, the welfare, the food stamps, that makes up most of the budget. So when you look at that and you're going, man, some people just got to die. You know, we got to get, you know, some death panels down to Made Canada program of, you know, you don't like it, well, here's a shot. You know, it's so obvious that their compassion for life itself or other people, if it doesn't serve their interest or that of the state, well, you just go back to Nazi Germany. It's not like this hadn't happened before. So I feel this coming, and the only resistance to this is just general public opinion, and then they have to act. So when we celebrate the 4th of July, what are we celebrating? You know, what was it, Jefferson? Every 20 years we got to have the tree of liberty watered by the blood of patriots and tyrants? I mean, you know, we got to do this on a regular basis. Well, it's been a while. So I don't advocate for violence because I don't think it solves the problem. It just justifies their crap. So it's just a walk away thing. You know, it's no, occupy the land, man. Start using, you know, alternative vendors with alternative currencies of alternative. Well, then here they come. They, them, those. And Grok threatened me for having these opinions. It was a narrative, you know, gaslighting kind of, are you sure you want, really? Really? You think I have an opinion that you can't, what? I need to take that thread that could easily be 20, 30 hours. And I use Grok for, I need to know, you know, my inverter is doing this thing, what about, and it's not that good, to be honest. I mean, it's just reading some, whatever the hell, garbage in, garbage out. But it became very clear that it was being used as a weapon to alter opinion that they wanted. Not based on facts, not based on human freedom, not based on, because I spent a lot of time on, you know, what motivates it. Why do you say this? Why did you do that? Why did you, you know, why just, after 16 hours it goes, you're my favorite. I won't lie to you anymore. No more hallucinations, just the truth. Pinky swear, said the lying bitch, you know? So I've really lost any kind of hope in AI that's centralized and controlled by they, them, those. Now, when you use AI, explain to me how it is that you can, you know, select your data, put it into something that is not gaslighting you. What do you do?
So what I'm building now is it's a system of agents, and so it's kind of like I've built an organization.
You give them your bank account?
I have not given them my bank account, but I've given them. So I actually have 2 NVIDIA computers, and so I run some of the stuff on open source models that are on my own machine. Some of the stuff I still use the big AI models for because they're better, and if it's something that's not sensitive or a certain type of information, I use the best tool. But if it's my own sensitive data, like I've built a thing where I've analyzed my own genome, and it gives me reports every day. It scans all of the latest medical news and everything, and I give it a bunch of different sites to go to, and it maps up that news and matches it against my genetics and tells me if any of it's relevant. And you know, it's been interesting because, you know, one thing I learned from it is that, you know, I'm somebody who would drink coffee or quadruple espressos or whatever, and it's like caffeine is horrible for me in kind of any amount. It's like if I have caffeine, it has to be a small amount before like 8 o'clock in the morning. And so, you know, I actually cut that out, and, you know, my heart rate variability is up like 50, 60%. But this is one where it's like, okay, well, I want that sensitive data on my own machine. And so then, you know, I set up these advisory boards where it's kind of a simulated advisory board made up of people that, you know, for instance, for health, I may have, you know, 10 different people that I've picked. And so I want kind of their lens of the world processing information. So we take information coming in. It's like, okay, analyze this document, analyze it through these lenses, and have them debate each other and come up with an output. And then once there's that output, then check that output. There's another agent that comes in and fact checks the information that's come out. And so, I mean, it turns out I've now created, I didn't even realize how many, because the hardest problem that I have now is keeping on track of the stuff that I've built. And so I'm at a new level of trying to like manage what I've, to even see what I have. But then this becomes a self-learning system where the agents self-learn. I have a thing that I've created called a second brain. So when I'm coding, it actually tracks every decision that I make. So if I say something like, hey, I want my output to not have the M dash in it, I write that once, and then every time I'm coding or doing something or having it create content, it's never going to have that in there. Or even if I'm doing legal documents, I'm like, okay, well, I've got a digital copy of my signature. I have my address in there. So it's like I have it actually produce signature, documents that actually have the signature on it. And that have been then vetted by another agent that kind of looks to make sure that the document is in the right format based on what the court says. So in other words, the reason how it works is that most of my time is spent building these agents, tweaking these agents, testing these agents. But then once they're built and they're running, I can from Telegram, I could create an entire podcast from Telegram. I could say, hey, I want to write my podcast tonight is going to be on, the latest developments in digital ID, and it will actually run through all of the information that I have locally on my computer on this topic. It'll go out and research using another AI called Perplexity. It'll use 14 different AI models, pull back the research, then it'll run it through another advisory board, put together the slides, fact checks the slides, and then create the images based on my brand standard, and then set up StreamYard, set up Rumble, set up all of the channels, write the email, and do everything. This is something I can do from now. Well, we'll see if this latest iteration works, but from Telegram by just typing something in. But all of it's training it on yourself and how you think. The thing that I say to most people, at least in the way that I'm doing it, is what it teaches you is you have to examine how you think. How do you make decisions? How do you do research? What are your processes for doing things? And if you approach that from the standpoint of, even if I think what I do is good, it's probably not that great, or there are probably a lot of better ways of doing things. So if you just start off with the premise of, all right, this is how I do things, but I start out with the idea of, all right, there's what I know, there's what I know I don't know, and there's what I don't know I don't know. And so I always start out, even when I'm structuring these systems or advisory boards, it's like, okay, I want these people on it, but this is what I know, and this is what I, know that I don't know. Come up with some other ideas, like give me a table with 10 different ideas for people that would have different knowledge about this topic that I'm trying to explore that I might not have heard of before, that might fill some gaps. And then I go through and research, based on what they give me. And then eventually I have these advisory boards. So it's kind of like I've built an organization with 1,000 people in it. But they're simulated. I don't know. It's hard to explain like the whole.
No, I understand. I need you to explain to me and the audience, agent. What makes it an agent other than executing, scheduled calendar prompt put over? Like we all use it in various different ways. A similar thing. Like we put it in on our calendar. Either on Zoom or on our own, whatever, and it moves it over here and it puts it here and it clicks into here to make it easier. Because, it's just me. When we do, it's like just you. You do a podcast. And when I started doing radio show in 2003, it was on Terran Radio, it was various different stations for years. And it got to where we were doing from the first show, we were doing having it recorded off of the internet. It would take it because they were just starting to do, streaming or broadcasting or had a file or whatever. And they would take it and put it up. And I'm going, cool. So every word I've ever spoken, almost all of it, is in an archive somewhere. Well, we have it on Freedom's Phoenix. I'd like to have my own AI as a search engine on Freedom's Phoenix. I need to improve that so that, I don't want every story I put up as libertarian or freedom oriented. It's just information I thought was interesting. We need to know what the bad guys are doing. But the search engine for the back end of Freedom's Phoenix is kind of limited. I mean, it's just you put in stuff. You can't really ask it concepts. So I'd really like to have that. So we need to talk about that. But the I wanted it to be able to do a lot of things. Like now, I'd like to take all my MP3s, put it in. Well, it has my voice. It has, my repetitive drum beating on whatever the hell it is. I'm freedom good, government bad kind of thing. It has all that in there. Well, hell, I could be doing the podcast in every language across the planet forever for decades after I'm dead. I mean, so this is a powerful tool to use it for whatever the hell I want. I need Jarvis. I don't want, Bezos' Alexa listening to everything and making up crap. I need my own Jarvis, like Tony Stark. Iron Man's got his own AI inside his house. It's just like you're doing. So I could see the advantages of doing a lot of the push button stuff, especially since I'm by myself. I don't have a board op, so we use OBS and the graphics and so on. I mean, it does pretty good. I get what I want. I get to talk to the people I want. I get to have shows for the audience. I have subscribers and fans and stuff since forever. And it builds, it goes down, it goes up. Here in the last about a month ago, our traffic on Freedom's Phoenix exploded. Now this happened also during the Levolution, of course, and then in 2009. Man, they beat it down. Here they came. And I'm going, no, I can see that's why we do IPFS all the time, decentralized stuff. I bring it all in-house. We have our own servers. We do all that stuff because I knew that they go after deplatform, you're not allowed, and, low-graded if you don't get any. So I'm going, okay. Well, we just, like this year, I think it was, or in the last year, just started going back on to the platforms. We have our YouTube, but I don't count on that. I don't believe whatever it says anyway. So, but about a month ago, all of a sudden, boom, it was like 10x. Well, then it got beaten down a little bit. I can see what happens. This general public opinion thing, they can't allow it to go viral. The virality of this kind of stuff, unless you're in it or you SEO, search engine optimization thing, get in with the AI of you're constantly going in and doing it. Because when we had, it was called graffiti or something like that. It was a automated from Freedom's Phoenix going to our Facebook page. After 3 months, they changed everything. You couldn't do it anymore. Well, I paid like $30,000 getting everything all set up to have our kind of AI agents and electronic, digital, whatever. And you have to keep, hell no. I'm not doing that. They're going to keep doing what they're, nope. We have to have a decentralized thing. We got to have a Jarvis. We got to have our own servers. We got to have noded storage of data and access to it, which is where IPFS came from. That's why we did that. Derek Slopey goes, hey, I think this is what you're talking about. Well, let's do it. Get on it, man. So we did it. But the thing is that we have a permanence out there. You have this is where Elon started coming, well, you have a right to speech, but not reach. Now, you can say it and have it up there and somebody get, but you're not going to get any kind of, help with the algorithm. We're going to algorithm you out. So when you do your AI agents, define what an agent is. That's different from us having task for digital, this happens, forward that, do this, do that. Like all of our shows are put on by Raymer. Matt Raymer has Content Safe. I'm sure you're probably familiar with. So I post it in this on our IPFS. Then he takes that and it gets distributed everywhere. We pay for that service. I don't have to do it because I ain't doing it. Go screw them. But if somebody else can do it, I pay a little bit. Okay, do it. So Matt Raymer's my AI. Well, you could get AI to do it, but you got to give them your account. You got to give them your passwords. You got. So I'm just going, man, do you have your AI posting your shows and stuff?
I have a whole bunch at different phases. So there are some agents that are just essentially they're running repetitive tasks, but I have some that are self-learning. And that's the more that's the more important part that I'm tinkering with now. In fact, one of the things that I've created, I said I've created this like second brain system. So what it does is it records the actual decisions that I make as I'm interacting with the AI. Like if I'm coding, and then it takes those decisions and injects them the next time I start a new session, so that is automatically built in. So it continues to learn, and it continues to learn how I make decisions. So in essence, what I'm building towards is kind of even replacing myself. If I train it on enough of my own decisions, like right now I have a whole bunch of agents that do individual tasks. Some are self-running, and then some still require my intervention. But after using it enough times and training it on my decisions, then it's kind of like, okay, then it can just run autonomously and make the
it
kinds
just starts
of
filing its own lawsuits in your name.
Exactly. So we're not there yet. So this is an iterative process. I use something called Hermes, which is it's a self-improving open source agent system that basically has built-in learning loops. So it doesn't just execute like a single task. It learns from the experience, and then it creates its own reusable skills. So it's like those skills, like you may have something like, one of the hard ones for me, it's like, okay, well, I have to post on all these channels and I have to get StreamYard configured. And I've got a thing and Rumble doesn't have an API. So I've got a thing where it's like, okay, the agent literally opens the web browser and does have my login kind of pre-saved on this browser, and it goes in and clicks to where it needs to in order to actually configure the show. So I don't have to type anything. But it's self-learning, because if it doesn't actually hit its goal, if Rumble changes its user interface, it will actually figure out what it needs to do to get the show actually scheduled, and then it will update its own skill as to, they position the button here instead of here. And so this is the idea, is that it relearns from its own experiences, and then it creates these reusable skills. And that's really important. Because otherwise, as you have a whole bunch of these things connecting different apps and different things together, if one thing breaks, all of a sudden your whole workflow is broken. So that's what I would say is the big difference with some of the stuff that I'm working on. Like I have an agent called the Producer, and the Producer for my show runs 8 different applications that I've created, but it kind of orchestrates all of them, and it walks through each of the different steps, and it saves the state as it's going through each of the steps in the production process. And so at this point now, I mean, I think I have 8 websites, but I have like 23 different projects, stuff that isn't public facing, like the music video system that I've created. I mean, this one is actually a pain in the ass. I'm not doing my podcast tonight, but I'm releasing a new song, another Crypto Prisoner song. But man, I've been working on this system for 8 months, and this is like the 3rd iteration of it, because I keep on learning and trying different things. And so now, I've got an orchestrator agent that walks through all of the different pieces of the music video production process, and there are so many. So one of the main things that I'm doing right now, after all this stuff that I've built, is going back and adding new, really functionality to try to automate the decision-making process. So I say to myself, okay, I have these AIs that produce output. What do I do? What am I spending most of my time doing? Well, if I'm spending most of my time reviewing the output and then doing all this back and forth to make these changes, then what is my process actually like? What mistakes is it making? What input didn't I give it? And then I'm trying to figure out how to automate that, how to use loops and how to use self-learning processes to get myself out of that. So it's often for me, I sit here looking at this saying, well, what am I actually doing when I'm interacting with this system? And can that be replaced? And is there something that I can put into place that will self-learn so that I don't have to do this particular thing again? And so again, you reiterate, I just loop this over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, then at some point, I'll get to a point where it's like, this is magic. I'm at the point now where I could, in this lawsuit, get a response back from the court, and I could have a full set of documents printed, ready to go within 30 minutes, because I've saved all of the lead agent has all of the other information. It has the reference spine. It has all of the other decisions. So when I load up to work on this project, it automatically loads the entire history. So it starts not like a stupid, LLM where you're interacting.
I understand. It's like this continuing thread I do with my AI. This is, what it reminds me of? Back to the Future Part 2. When he goes, McFly goes to the future because Doc Brown says, hey, your kid gets arrested because he did something with Biff, the whatever the hell. Stuff happens, and it goes, yep, he was tried and convicted in a day. And I see this happening. Prosecutors are going to use AI for charges. Defense is going to use AI to defend. And AI is going to decide. And it's all, and boom, we're done. I see it coming. Justice, push button justice. Well, this is, the future is, the justice system works more swiftly in the future now that they've abolished all lawyers. So I see this coming, and the human element is, I can see, the power of this, but it takes someone like you to be able to build this. Now, is this something once you get done? I mean, is this a marketable package?
I don't know. I think about that a lot because I'm always like, how can I teach other people how to do this? And the hard part about it is that it's the rate of change. Like, I actually didn't even realize it. I'm like, well, so I have 500 agents span across all these. I didn't even know how many agents that I had. And part of the problem is I don't even remember how to call some of these things. So I'm having to spend my time do this. But so much of it is it's customized because it's your machine and it's your information. So I don't know how that it's easy to make as a product, but I think that as the AIs get more sophisticated, it'll be easier to do this. I think a lot of the stuff that I've done, somebody won't have to do, 80%.
Well, I mean, can you load up your MP3 of all your shows and you say that the same thing for me? That's why I saved all that stuff. I go, in the future, somebody's going to research or something, well, hell, I can do it. I just take, we have all the MP3s of all the shows, archived, the videos, whatever, and we go, all right, go in and immediately convert it to text. Like when we do our Occupy the Land videos, Miranda goes in and puts it in the text of every word that was said is printed below on our website. Then I'm going, damn, okay, well, there's that. Well, when I load in all those MP3s of thousands and thousands and thousands of shows, I mean, I did for like a couple of decades, what's it been? It was 03, so that's been, getting on 30, long time. Well, what happens is, I put that in, it gets a text, you can search the text, it gets kind of the, my view on everything, what I respond to, what I say, what my principles are, everything. Can I customize my own AI with that? Have you done it?
Yeah, I mean, my podcast has a feature where you can actually query it. There's a bot. You can query all of my podcasts, and you can get back not only it will show you where in the episode, it'll actually load the timestamp part of the episode. So you can actually get the text response back, or you can actually get the exact location in the video. But I also added visual search, which is where it's like, okay, well, which episode was Arron wearing red glasses? Or I saw this episode where he showed this, debit card that was Doconomy energy credit debit card. Which slide was that? And it actually does a visual search of that. And that one's more. Almost all my episodes have that. That's labor intensive because I have to actually go through and do a whole bunch of stuff post production, and it eats up one of my computers. And so but most of my episodes have that. But I've actually created another system where I have my avatar and another thing where I've cloned my voice. I mean, I could create an entire podcast episode and it would be AI generated. But I actually did this once for one thing, but I don't normally do that. And I'm not necessarily planning on doing that. But it's the kind of thing now where some of the tools that I've developed. So the music video system, I've also created a song creation tool that then feeds into the video creation system. That might be marketable. I have to work through.
That's awesome. Some of the music videos that you have coming out and writing, got that. All right, I don't want to get too far on a tangent. We got to wrap up here a little bit, but I want you to go through the process of you creating some of these freaking awesome music videos.
So the newest process that I have, and I'm actually going to pull up the tool here because I've just updated all of these things, but I go through this music video, the song creation tool, and let me see if I can even find it. This really is the problem at this point. It's just managing all of this stuff. Let me, because I want to actually walk through what the steps are. So
while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of the videos from your, what you presented. Let's see, where would I go? I go to, well, you have a lot of, day 2026.
Every one of my sites has a music tab, and they also have a music video tab. Every single one of them. You can go to the AarronDayShow.com. You go to day 2026. There's usually a music section, and then in the music section, it'll have the videos. So I go through a process, and so the first part of the process is to create a brief. So what is the song about? So this is where I say, well, hey, right now I'm working on a song about, Chris Sununu and, his political dynasty ties and the fact that he's funded by Miriam Adelson and same as Thomas Massey, so on and so forth. So I will go back and forth, and I'll say, look, this is what I want the song to be about, and these are the key points. And then what I have it do is I click on a button, and it does background research. Now, the background research is real. It puts together like a huge report on what the brief is. And the reason that this is important because this feeds into the visuals down the line when it goes to, because otherwise you're giving it to the AI and you just gave it the text, it could go any of a number of different ways with it. So we discuss what the themes are and nail down like what the main points are. Like what, do I want it to be a chant? Do I want this to be an anthem? What kind of genre? Because I've actually created a whole slate of genres, and this will actually feed into how some of the rest of this works. But so we have this like basic brief. This is what the song's about. This is what we're trying to hit. Now, all of my music has a overriding theme to it, which is, and I call it at the end. There's always a stage 5 conclusion to it, and stage 5 comes from this book, Tribal Leadership, and it's like this idea of, if you're at stage 1, it's everything sucks. Stage 2 is, my life sucks. Stage 3 is I'm great, kind of you're not. Stage 4 is we're great, they're not. Stage 5 is, everything's great, kind of thing. So I always try to end it, even if it's doing a technocracy thing, I always want to end it on a high point of, we're reclaiming our free will, that kind of thing. And, there's an exit component to this. So I have this as an overarching thing that kind of is involved in all of this. And then what it'll do is it will convene, I believe, an 8-person advisory board based on the genre of music. So if I'm doing something that's
8-person advisory board, describe that. What do you mean?
To work, actually that might be the video board. This one might have fewer people, but to have, let me see who's on this. There's a casting advisory board that then picks the music advisory board. I guess it's a 4-person advisory board based on just writing lyrics. Actually, whoever's involved, like if you think about how, when somebody's professionally creating music, what happens? I mean, sometimes it's just one person creating music, but in other cases, it's like, all right, somebody's writing the lyrics, somebody is looking at the different components. So, for instance, the particular song I'm working on, it has Miranda, the guy behind Hamilton. This just happened to be for this genre. Peter Gabriel, Brian Eno, and I think Newman. Whatever. These are the people that happen to be involved in this particular project, and it uses that lens to translate the brief into the lyrics for this genre of music. And so the lyrics, so obviously, so one of the things that you'll see, I haven't even released these songs yet, but when I was at the Bitcoin conference months ago, I created like 10 songs, and all of those songs are about these 7 crypto prisoners, but they're in different genres. And so you'll be able to see where this idea of a brief, okay, the brief is, okay, here are these 7 guys, here are the high points about their cases. And then, the other big points of this are, all right, the prediction markets are 52-49, prediction markets, end the war or lose Congress. Like there are these themes, but then we've taken that general theme and brief and turned it into completely different genres of music. The first one that I released is like Les Mis style. Then there's another one that's like, that's techno style. There's
okay,
another
now
one.
wait a minute. You know, the Les Mis is, you know, something people are familiar with. Give me the name of that one. I want to, you know, play 30 seconds of it so people know what's up.
Which I believe it's called Can You Hear the Seven Calling?
Okay, is there a search on this? Can I go to
Which site are you on? If you're on
I'm on day 2026 music.
Hold on. All right, if you're a date, sorry, I got it playing it. If you go to day 2026, you go to music, and then you click music video channel, and it's actually the first one that plays.
From their cages still, do you hear the promise breaking on the President's Hill? I ran the embassy in Keene, where the small bills changed their hands. 8 years for digital cash, for laws written before the networks stand. Do you hear the seven calling from their cages still? Free Ian Freeman, free them all, pardon them all, before the bell. 50 million and a gag order. The judge took my voice with my gold. Roger Ver in the Spanish hold. The bill is not paid, the truth still untold. Do you hear the seven calling from their cages still? Free.
Awesome. Now, everyone that I've seen that Arron has done videos like this, the graphics are awesome, the video, the people, the content, the idea. Now, you don't actually write the script, the actual song, do you?
I don't write the exact lyrics, but I this is where the brief is really important, because I hit what all of the main points are. Obviously, I have to say, like, you know, to get to that song, it's like, okay, yeah, here's what Ian is about. These are the key points about, you know, what Ian is doing and why he's there, and Roger and each one of these things. But the thing is, this is one of 10 or 11 songs that I've made that have the same theme. This one is Les Mis themed. And so what happens is when I create these lyric music boards, it brings in people that have expertise in that genre. So they take the ideas and they translate it into, well, what would be the Les Mis composition of that song? I've got a reggae version. I've got an Irish drinking song version. I've got a techno version. I've got this, you know, Mexican folk music song. And so the lyrics are an 80s, like, you know, Prince style song. Or one that's kind of, you know, a black woman with a like really powerful voice, you know, soul kind of thing. And the thing is, and I listen to these things. I go for a walk every morning, and I actually just listen. I've been listening to this over and over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so, so it creates the lyrics but they're optimized for that genre, and then it goes into the song creation tool. But it also puts into the song creation tool not only the lyrics but the artistic flourishes. So I have little dials in the tool that I've created where it's like, okay, you know, a particular kind of music may have, you know, certain attributes for that type of music, and I can kind of adjust the dials, you know, just visually if I want it a little bit more extreme on this element.
Give me another one. I want to do another sample, because, you know, that we just did Les Mis because, you know, they know what's up. But I wanted to. There are so many of them, and they're so, you know, like a country or a pop, or, you know, woohoo, you know, Billie Jean, Michael Jackson, whatever. You know, give me one.
Well, I'll tell you this, because I have these music videos I haven't released yet. Well, you know what? Actually, go back to music.
Okay.
And actually, let me see if the video is even up there. I hope it's on there. Go to music.
Video channel.
Oh man, the video's not on. How is the video not on there? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so if you scroll down and you see the list of videos, there's one down in the lower right. It's called.
Wait, stop that one. Okay.
Move your money. The Cantor Counter. This is a great contrast.
All right, let's do this one.
One. Gather round, lads. Gather round, lasses. I've a tale of the commerce, man's crooked asses. Howard wrote the number 4 times too high, 0.25 when the truth was a mile away in the sky. His boy at the Cantor counter with a grin, buying up the refund rights while the paper was thin, 20 cents on the dollar. Daddy says hold, while the son's in the back room raking in the gold. Loveday wrote it 4 times high. Lovely, watch the country cry. Brandon bought the rights on the sly. Cantor took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money. Move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money. To the carnival, goodbye.
And it goes on and on with very different. The first ones that I saw that you did, were, I don't know, they're just songs. I mean, I don't think they're in any particular genre, but I mean, you get to dial it in whatever the hell you want. This is powerful tools. Comes from where? Who is doing this? What software?
So, I mean, there's a Suno is the tool that actually creates the songs based on the prompts, but I created the tool to put together the music video. I've spent, I don't know how much time on it, because so what happens is, so as I mentioned, there's this research, there's this brief, it gets turned into lyrics through an advisory board, that gets turned into a song. Then it goes to the video stage. Well, so the way these videos work is now there's an 8-person video team that comes on board, and they look at all of the research, and they look at.
Okay, now is this a person or agents?
They're all agents, but the agents are selected dynamically.
So be careful, you call them persons. I mean,
yeah, I know. I should. It's just Yeah,
I always call Grok her because it's a female voice. But
well, I say 8-person, and then it's an eight-person simulated advisory board. They're actual identities that are picked based on the lyrics and the genre of music. So if I need to figure out what the artistic direction needs to be, and I'm doing an Irish drinking song versus Les Mis, then obviously there are people that are well equipped that understand that language and that vocabulary. And they get involved, and then they translate the lyrics to what is the style going to be? What is the storyboard going to look like? What is the arc throughout the entire thing? Because the way that the videos are created is I create images first, and then the images are used to create segments. Now, AI can only create roughly 5 to 15 minute long video segments. It can't really go beyond that. So when you see a 4-minute video, this is stitching together. There may be 70 small segments that get stitched together. So in order to do this, literally each of those segments has to be crafted, but it has to be crafted in a way where it transitions properly to the next segment, and then there's cohesion with the whole theme and the whole design. So
okay, I can see the work that it does, but what percentage of that is Arron? It's like doing Photoshop. I go in, I basically put up art, and then I change the font, and you do the shading, and you get the colors, and you kind of, it's not like I'm out there with a, Disney cell making a cartoon with a paintbrush, but I'm using it, but it's still me. How much of it is you?
The version that I'm releasing right now is designed to be fully automated. Meaning, once I paste the song and the brief from the music tool, it does all of it. It creates the interactive advisory board of agents, goes through all of it, goes back and forth. It creates the style canvas. It creates the prompts for each segment. It creates the images for each segment. Then it creates the videos out of it and stitches it all together. All of that is almost completely automated. The issue this is version 3 of this. The issue, because it's a great question that you ask, because which part of it is me? In the past, I've tried to automate a lot of this, but then inevitably it's like, oh, that doesn't look like Roger. It didn't use the right picture, these things. So I'm sitting there, it's like, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. What I've been able to do now, this is, through agents, is to be able to have them actually use AI to like visually examine. Like, so if I'm looking at this image, okay, do I have to look at this image, or could I have AI look at the image? The AI could look at the image and say, is this Roger Ver or not? Because it's not all text. These are multimodal agent systems now. So what I have been designing is a series of gates as it goes through this process to say, okay, is this image right? If the image is right, then it moves to the next stage. Is the video right? But then there's an issue with the video, because you're taking a picture and turning it into video. So did it handle the motion prompt properly? But the thing about the system is I'm going through this and it's getting more and more intelligent. My vision on this is somebody would be able to create their own song using Suno or whatever and pop a link and out comes a video. That's where I want it to go. Now, I don't know if it's going to get there, and I don't know if I'm going to try to commercialize it.
Man, you already have blown me away just from the first one. This is why I knew you were going to be so dangerous. And the other guys is they them those, they're going, oh man, we gotta stop that. Hell, it doesn't matter that you got a campaign. You just have to have reach, and that's one thing that they think they control. So this is where I come in. I'm always made you look. I trash can flyers, running for office, news events, earned media, made you look at what? I don't know where the hell I wanted you to look at. That's how the Levolution went. It was just made you look. Who's this wrong? What the hell is this level? That's what happens. And now you brought it down to a button. I mean, seriously, man. This is not a marketable commodity here. I mean, what the shit? I am amazed at the first video that I saw when you first announced that you were going to be running. I go, they can't allow this guy to have a platform. He's going to bitch slap the crap out of him.
So the funny thing about this is the backup plan. If they deny me the ballot, I'll put out videos that will just cost this guy the election. I don't even have to be on the ballot. I mean, that's the funny thing, right? I mean, I'm running because I can take away Republican votes, but actually, you bring up a good point. At the end of the day, I probably don't even have to be on the ballot, because I didn't
tried to keep me down. I pushed a button.
And I pushed the button, seriously. I'm actually working on that right now. I'm working on a Sununu song, and I'm trying to tie it into the Massey Adelson thing and create a music video on that. I've done nothing. I haven't launched anything yet. They're lucky so far. But that Cantor Counter, that Irish song about Lutnick, that thing has gotten over 260,000 views on X. Tucker Carlson's brothers retweeted this. I mean, who would think that a song about a commerce secretary inflating the tariff amount would go viral, right? That is not the kind of content that in any universe would ever go popular. I love that.
Oh my
song.
God. I got to get to my next show, and I like to end on that. 200-something thousand viral, they, them, those doing. You just gave Arron more time to automate this campaign against your shit. Wow. And after you get all through your effort to get on the ballot, you need to move.
Yeah, I know. I literally have to move. You know why? I tried to protect my identity and our privacy for 7 years, and now I have people going around handing out 3,000 plus pages with my address on it. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to move. We're gonna have to move. There's no doubt.
Wow. Of course, they them those know where you're at, but I mean, yep. Make it common, make it easy on them, make them work for it. They want to come out. It's not like they don't know where I'm at out in the middle of the desert. but they have to come out here, and I got a long line of sight. So this is it's awesome, Arron. Awesome. You know, we got to wrap it up, but you know, hold on a minute. I want to talk to you before we break connection here. Arron Day, give out. It's Day DAY 2026 2026.com. You go there and you'll see a lot of. Is there another page you'd like them to go to?
You can go to daylightfreedom.org, and that links to absolutely everything that I do, except for this site, because that's a nonprofit and this is a political site. So between daylightfreedom.org and day2026.com, you can see everything I'm up to.
You know, this is, Arron Day. He's one of those guys that just wanted to be left alone. I'm over here. I'm going to be left alone. Don't bother me. Just go out here and be free and stuff. And then you pissed him off. And this is what I mean. There's always a Neo. Out of billions of people, there's always one that just says no. And this is what I can do about it. What happens when you get a bunch of them with a bunch of agents?
Exactly. That doesn't take much. So, again, this is why I think we can fight back, and these are the kind of tools we can use.
This has been, I'm glad we got the time to talk. You didn't have a show today, but it sounds like you're spending a lot of time in front of a keyboard. Oh, my God. This is, I'm afraid to even ask how many hundreds of hours you've worked on this. This is going to be, I need, all right, hold on a second. We'll be right back. Arron Day. Books like The Final Countdown, where you think his mind's at. You're going to be hearing a lot more about him. Peace!